Hello, I'm Bill Willingham, and I'm inviting you to try out Southern Fried Geekery, a podcast of renown.
So you like the Gambino video?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's weird to say because it's like it's disturbing,
Right.
but that's what it was supposed to do.
You appreciated its artistic
Yes.
quality.
Yes.
As much as less than you enjoyed it. 'Cause it's not a...
meant to send a message.
It really... Well, even the dance. Like, it's an interpretive dance thing. It's just insane.
Yeah.
And it's like people have stated, they've had to watch the video multiple times to keep seeing new things. That's a lost art on some artists and people, especially who make, like, not protesty, but you know what I mean, like make these statements. Some of them are a little too in your face. That's why I'm not a fan of Rage Against the Machine. But like this video was in your face, but also had subtle nuances that made it true art.
You don't like Rage?
I don't like Rage.
Really? I didn't know that.
I've stated it before. I'm pretty sure on this podcast.
Have you? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
Like bands like System of a Down, make their message, make it, artist or artistic. Rage Against the Machine is that annoying kid on campus with a bullhorn in the middle yelling at you.
I'll give you that. So
I've used that allegory.
I think I love the band Rage
yeah.
more than I love Zach De La Roche.
So I still like that I don't know his name. I still like I said I don't like the Rage Against the Machine. I don't like him. I think they need a
Zach
much
De La
better
Roche,
lead
yeah.
man.
Which
for a
they
very
had with
talented
Chris Cornell.
which I
Right, as
sadly
audio studio,
learned about
yeah.
very late. But Charles Gambino's video, artistically done. You could tell real thought was put into it.
It's insane.
Well, it makes you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and it's disturbing, and that's how you know that it's doing something right. And again, watch it without paying attention to him, and watch the stuff going on in the background. And it's like, oh, all this chaos is going on, but look at me, I'm pretty. Just pay attention to the pretty things, and you won't see all the chaos going on.
It's all about distracting from the ugly.
And it's one of those things of like, I feel you have to watch the music video for this one to really get the full message of everything.
I mean, the song is fantastic on its own, but you're right. The music video adds another level to it, for sure.
Well, and I'm not a big fan of trap music, which is that brand of hip-hop, that style, but this one I dig. I dig a lot.
It's agreed to, but I was talking with Vanetta, who's my wife, who's a lot more familiar with Josh Gambino's music. I honestly haven't listened to a ton of it, but I've liked what I have heard. And I said this one didn't sound like his other rap. And I think that was intentional. I think that trap style was intentional to show because I honestly kind of piggybacking off what Craig was saying was a lot. If you do pay attention to him, and I've seen comments about it, like, man, he acts really weird in the thing. He goes, and someone kind of made the comparison about observation of how it's like something horrible happens, then you smile and dance, and it's also, like you said, distraction, but it's also adapting for these people who deal with that on a daily basis. They have to be like, I just saw a guy get shot. Well, we're going to do our hip-hop dance and get over it and act like everything's okay, which a lot of people do to ignore the problems that are going on.
Well, and not only that, like his character in that video, if you break it down, he is taking upon himself to represent a lot of the things that negatively affect specifically the African American community. Yeah. So, when he takes the form of Jim Crow, he takes that pose in the beginning where he shoots the guy in the back of the head. By the way, I want him to play the Joker right now. But he also, in doing that, if you listen to the lyrics compared to some of what he's dancing, on that one section, the kids in the background are in these like schoolgirl uniforms and schoolboy uniforms, and they're like making twerk videos. And what he's saying is like, this is also a part of like, I'm distracting these kids into doing these things, and we're not teaching them about their history and about what's going on.
Right.
It's just
there's so many.
It's so in depth.
And that just the powerful message of how he would like shoot some people and then safely like hand the gun off to somebody, and they would handle it with so much care and stuff. And I saw it pointed out that it was like, symbolic of it being like a red cloth and everything because of the right and everything.
Oh, and basically, not just that too, but like I kind of like took it like he shot that dude in the very beginning with the Jim Crow pose, and then that gun wasn't just handed off screen; it was handed off in a silk cloth.
Yep.
Like we care more about the gun than the person that just got
Absolutely.
shot.
Everything in that song and that video is a symbol.
Yep.
Well, you guys want to do a podcast?
let's record a podcast.
Hey, let's do it. You did not come to hear 4 white guys from the South talk about hip-hop, but yeah, maybe you did come to hear 4 dudes from the South talk about comic books, which is kind of awesome. I am, as always, Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
I'm Jerry.
You are Jerry.
We love
We
Jerry.
do love Jerry.
This is the 3rd episode where I haven't had some kind of joke, Craig. Get over it.
And we're so
I'm
happy.
so
I've
impressed.
literally been debating this whole time of giving like 60 middle names to make fun of this guy talking about his full name, but I don't have the energy to
How can you
respond
make
to
fun
it.
of Caleb giving his full name, but you never say anything about me giving my full name?
You don't give your full name though. You only give your first and last. He gives his
He
first,
gives his
middle,
first
last.
and last.
Actually, Craig gives me middle
Alexander
and last.
McKenzie is his last name.
Yeah, my middle name is not Alexander.
Holy shit! Really?
I got married.
Oh yeah. No, I'm dumb. I forgot that you were a hyphenate.
Yeah.
Nobody does
And
that.
let me see if I remember something to prove I'm an even better friend than Jerry again. Craig doesn't give his first name; he gives his middle name.
He
That's
does
true
give his
as
middle
well.
name.
I'm a better friend than Jerry.
You remember that scene from Hot Tub Time Machine where they would go into the hyphenate thing?
Right.
Nobody does that.
Well, guys out there, this is episode 19 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. Time is flying by. I can't believe we've been doing this for 19 weeks now. This is insane. Yeah, and it's been a great ride so far. We appreciate all of you fine folks out there who have given your time to listen to the podcast and to join our Facebook community and to like our stuff on Instagram and, just connect with us as folks who love comic books and who love the pop culture and the geek culture. So we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the great things of doing this is we get to connect with some folks who give their time and we get to meet them up at local cons. And in saying that, there is a local con in the Little Rock area next week. So if you're in Central Arkansas, or if you're in Arkansas and you don't mind a little bit of a drive, come out to Benton, to the Benton Community Center, and come to the Little Rock Comic Con. It's going to be a lot of fun. They put on a good show every year. It's a smaller con, which means that you might get the chance to interact with some people that you know from the comics world or from the television world, from the cosplay world, or just vendors. You make some new friends and get some one-on-one time with people that you like and respect and get to chat with, and that's really kind of cool. Those are my favorite parts about the cons.
Absolutely, it'll be a lot of fun.
Sean and I have a secret cosplay that you guys definitely won't get.
So secret that no one will get except the 5 people Jerry's friends with on Instagram. But you know what? It's working for my boy Jerry.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
I'm thinking about doing a cosplay too that no one will know.
Yeah, obscure cosplay.
Yep, nope.
We'll get you yet, Caleb.
It's not happening.
We'll get you yet.
I will cosplay nerd. Chubby, tattooed white dude with a little bit of a rainbow flare. So it's been a week since we've all gathered around the table, and like always, the geek culture world is busy. There's things happening. It is rife with news. So we've had a few things happen that we want to talk about in the last week. So why don't you start off, Jerry?
Yeah, they released a new Luke Cage trailer, and it looks awesome.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty much, coming off of, I guess, Defenders is
Yes.
the last thing he was in, and he's just, become this big icon. It goes through, shows him stopping some crime and everything, and then this hooded character shows up and beats the shit out of him, and you're like, oh, this isn't good. Turns out the character that's beating the holy crap out of him is Bushmaster. I cannot remember what his first appearance is in. The main place I know him from is Moon Knight, because he was the one who Moon Knight cut his fucking face off, and and that was before the whole thing happened with the Joker. Wasn't he still wearing his face on his face?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
he's not a new character, right? He's been around for a little while.
He's been around for a while,
Right.
but it was that Moon Knight run that was from I think 2010 or so.
Got it. He actually first appeared in Iron Fist number 15, 1977.
Oh wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But it's kind of cool because they're kind of giving you a supernatural villain in Luke Cage
Yeah.
this season, and it kind of makes me hopeful that they will eventually bring other supernatural villains in. Or since we have Bushmaster, that maybe we're going to segue into some Moon Knight at some point.
Well, you need supernatural for Luke Cage, and I know the first one they tried to keep it grounded to earth, but the dude can literally take no damage.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't hurt him. He's so
Unless
they
you shoot him in the head with a shotgun and give him a concussion.
That's about all you can
Yeah.
do. So they need somebody that can actually do some damage to him, either metaphysically or with super strength or something. So
Sorry, I went a little deeper into the wiki for him. There was a second Bushmaster. Now, granted, I don't think they're going to go with this whole guy losing his arms and legs and being replaced with a whole snake body. But another connection to the Serpent Society.
Yeah.
That started in the first season. He was the one that found a member. This Bushmaster with the snake body was part of the Serpent Society, much like Cottonmouth. And
That's awesome.
Back.
I need to go back and do some research because I'm not sure if Bushmaster and Luke Cage have had a good comic run together or not. Because I only know Bushmaster because he's one of the quintessential Moon Knight villains, like Jerry said, and there's been some great stuff with him on there. But he's definitely got I think he's from South Africa or Central Africa. He's definitely got that African influence, so it makes sense that they would use him here. I just don't know a lot about the character outside Moon Knight.
Well, it's funny how they do that in comic books. A lot of times, like a villain will make their first appearance in one person's book. Like apparently he was in Iron Fist, which makes sense that he would then become a Luke Cage villain, but then ends up becoming Moon Knight's one of his main villains. It's like Punisher making his appearance in Spider-Man, but or Wilson Fisk being a villain for Spider-Man, but he's really Daredevil's villain. But he made his first appearance and was initially a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
But then he, is really Daredevil's.
The way it's going, though, and the way they've been doing the series, it kind of makes me wonder, because we've always had that, the big villain that they show in the trailer.
Right.
And then in a lot of the Netflix shows, halfway through, they kind of deal with that and then go on to another villain. So I'm kind of wondering if, he's going to be a segue into another villain.
Well, Diamondback's coming back.
Is he?
Please, no.
No, it's going to be a segue to Snake Body.
Snake Body.
Luke Cage going to rip him in half.
We're gonna get a Naga.
Yeah.
Man, I just wonder. So my favorite thing about the first season of Luke Cage was partially the soundtrack. I wonder if we're gonna get what is going to be on the soundtrack. They had some great music in that first season. You got to see Method Man on screen. I wonder if we're going to get any more Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I want. I hope we get another great soundtrack.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully they keep that up.
So, about that Disney and Fox deal that we've all been excited about because we just knew that we're going to see the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and all those characters that Fox owns finally come home to Marvel Studios because they have a deal in the works that, there's been some speed bumps on and everything, but we just knew it was going to happen. Well, maybe not. So there's a little company called Comcast that apparently is preparing to launch a counteroffer against the Disney Marvel acquisition of Fox properties. And not only is it a counteroffer, but it's an all-cash counteroffer of $60 billion or more.
Wow.
Billion with a B.
I didn't think Comcast had that much money.
At one point in time, Comcast almost bought Disney.
Wow.
Yeah, they have
That's legit.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't realize how much they own and how much they have and do.
Right.
But they're a megacorp.
Yes,
Well, I just wonder if there's going to be some sort of side deal worked out where Comcast sells those properties back to Disney, the ones that should belong to Marvel.
Potentially, but it would be a number of years because it's illegal to do a quick turnaround of that size.
Well, I'm not saying selling the company again, selling just those
Oh,
properties
the rights.
back. Yeah.
Possibly.
My hope would be at least they are buying the properties just so they get their cut and let Marvel still have full control.
Similar
Like working
to
alongside
Sony.
with them.
Kind of doing like Sony would do. I mean, yeah, that would be great. Either way, I just, I would like to see the Fantastic Four and the X-Men get in the Marvel
Get
tent.
the Marvel
man.
treatment.
Yeah, get the
legit.
respectful treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, although, we have seen Fox do some decent movies with like Logan and, Deadpool #1 was fun. But man, other than that, they just haven't done anything great. So, I don't know. $60 billion is a lot of money to be paying all in cash. Like, I can't, my brain does not functionally fathom that much money.
In other news, the dude goes to the bank, gets the $60 million out, it's taken it to cash, it gets pulled over by the police and goes to jail for money laundering.
Yes.
So, in other news, there's been a release date set for the Sherlock Holmes 3, with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law reunite in December of 2020.
Oh, nice.
So weird, because for the longest time, 2020 seemed like the future.
Oh, right.
And now we're only two years away.
2 short years away. We've already got Marvel movies planned for them.
But, the first 2 are a lot of fun. I mean, they're fun, entertaining movies. They're popcorn movies, but they're a lot of fun.
RDJ is a really good actor in everything he does, and not just as Iron Man. We all love him from there, even though he has some, I didn't care for his second movie as much. But, and I know Sean loved that. But, he's just a good actor, and he plays a great Sherlock Holmes. And he waved at me on I-40 the other day.
Well, are you sure it was really?
No,
I was hoping we'd
100%
forgotten about
sure.
this by now.
No, I just want to, it's awesome because apparently Robert Downey Jr. owns property here in the North Little Rock area. And I was driving down I-40 and 2 white suburban type vehicle, GMC, came up behind me, and I'm like, okay, we live near an Air Force base. That's probably something to do with that. Pulls up alongside. I have Marvel stickers on the back of my truck. They're actually the Hulk, so, man. But window rolls down. Dude starts waving. It's Robert Downey Jr. He keeps pulling ahead, and his license plate says RDJ.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I got waved at. I almost died. I literally almost wrecked my truck. So
Okay, so here's a Sherlock question for you. Who did better, him or Cumberbatch?
They both did fine in their own scenario. It was 2 different stories.
Yeah. What's up?
Cumberbatch was while a modern take, definitely more traditional to the original novels.
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. was definitely a more action-oriented Sherlock Holmes, which also made sense, especially given that director style.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the Cumberbatch show to those movies, but both of them are a lot of fun. They're like Sean said, it's different takes on the same property. But I like the Cumberbatch show.
They both kind of had that thing whenever their Sherlock is figuring something out, because how RDJ has where he'll be trying to think through a situation, or he's fighting, and you see where he needs to hit somebody or something like that, and then Cumberbatch had that whole thing, I guess, where it was math and angles and stuff like that, and how different things work out.
And I'd have to check the years for sure, but I don't remember which one came first, but obviously I think they paid attention to each other.
Yeah,
I got inspiration from the little notes.
Cumberbatch one started first.
Weirdly enough, I want to say I think the Downey one movie came
We'll have to look up and see who. Y'all
check out.
Y'all go to Google.
You were talking about his acting chops. If you ever want to see how good of just a solid actor he is, watch that Elton John video, I Want Love.
Yeah. Where
it's just him. And for those of you that don't know the story behind that, he was actually in rehab at that time.
Yeah.
And Elton John, he was pretty much on his way out of Hollywood. He had been in and out of drug problems, and Elton John gave him a shot and said, hey, I want you to do this video. They went and picked him up, took him to this house. I mean, when you look at him in that video, you can tell that he was straight up, he's clean.
Right.
But he's just wearing a t-shirt and pants, and it's just nothing, and he looks exhausted in it. But it's such a great video, and it's so powerful. So,
like we said in the intro to the show, man, music can do amazing things.
And while we sidebarred while y'all discussed that music video, the Robert Downey movie came before the Cumberbatch TV show. So I think that visual cues, I had a feeling, if I remembered right, that they had taken that from the Guy Ritchie movies. So.
If nothing else, I appreciate that the Cumberbatch show is not shy about letting you know how much of a drug addict Sherlock Holmes was. Yeah. So he shot up a lot of cocaine in that show. One of the largest East Coast publishers, Random House Publishing, has announced that they are launching their own graphic novel imprint geared towards all ages book, and it's going to be Random House Comics. This is huge. Random House, I don't know that there's anybody who doesn't know what they are. They do the Random House giveaways. They send you everything. Major publication company. They've got their hands in everything. They're one of the most famous New York publishers, And for them to get into comics, and the individual that is running their program used to have her hands in First Last Comics, and so she knows absolutely what she's talking about. She is a professional to the capital P of the word. And anytime we get all ages comics, anytime we get more and we make them more accessible to the general market, not just to comic fans, but to just kids in general, to people who might not have a predilection towards funny books, that's awesome. That's how you make the industry survive. So I'm really, really pumped about this.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about anytime. Same thing. You get all age books out there. It's absolutely required for the continuation of this industry and our hobby to continue on into the next generation. My question is Random House Publishing tends to be a mail order subscription service. They won't, like, magazines are big into magazines and stuff. So I'm wondering if you're going to be able to get these comics at your local comic book store, or if it's going to be a mail order.
I would imagine that they're probably going to advertise in the Diamond Previews catalog. I don't know that for a fact, but I also imagine that they're going to be... Random House has a lot to do with the public library system, so they're going to be getting their books to people that way. They're going to be getting their books for sale online. I think it's probably... I imagine they have like a multi-pronged plan to inject this into the both the comics culture and into the literary culture.
Yeah, that would be great, to be honest. So
Absolutely.
Super pumped, man. I'm energized about kids reading comics.
Yeah, well, that's great. I got a little news. A certain franchise is getting a movie made.
Oh, yeah?
Production starts in September for Monster Hunter.
Oh, wow.
See, that's the 50.
Yeah.
Here's the other 50.
Oh, no.
This is why I didn't share the story.
Oh, no.
From director Paul W.S. Anderson, starring Mila Jovovich. That team sounds somewhat familiar.
Yeah.
That's the Resident Evil team.
Yeah.
I like the first one.
It went downhill quick. The first one was passable for me. Definitely not.
You mean you didn't like the Army of Clones?
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones.
I liked the first couple of them, but it did go downhill quickly.
It went downhill quickly, and granted, oftentimes budget and studio interference can factor into those. Maybe they told them to pump out those sequels quick. I'm trying to be 50-50 on
Yeah,
that.
no, for sure.
Because I'm excited that Monster Hunter is going to get a big screen adaptation.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident. And much of Mila Jovovich is one of my future wives for a long time, since Fifth Element. I
always wanted her to play the Scarlet Witch before they cast the Olsen girl in it.
Well, trying to add some positivity to it, Paul W.S. Anderson also did Event Horizon.
You know what? I'm a horror guy. I'm not crazy about that movie.
I love that.
It's not bad, but it didn't strike a chord with me too hard.
Well,
But
there's just no positivity.
No.
I'm
But why I brought up budget, especially $60 million budget.
That's a good budget.
He
for
has
that
no
movie.
reason not to make a giant fucking monster hunting movie.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But I'm excited regardless. But of course, that's unfortunate with that team, and more like you said, more so the first one. Okay, passable. I thought a very easy game to adapt to a movie, and of course they take their own spin, as is common in Hollywood adaptations. But it was decent. Sequels went downhill.
It was much better than anything Uwe Boll ever's done.
Well, that's why he's not directing Monster Hunter, Craig.
With a video game property. So.
But Jerry, yeah, you're the other big Monster Hunter guy in this group, man. What do you think?
I don't know. It's weird taking that property and trying to turn it into a movie. I mean, you could easily see it as an anime.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly a TV show. But I don't know, movie-wise. Like, it just... Because it's definitely going to be heavy CGI.
That's what I worry about.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it's going to be an hour and a half of Matthew McConaughey leaping into the rate of fire dragon.
Y'all can laugh at that part all you want. I love that movie and that scene.
Me too. I ain't gonna lie. That's a guilty pleasure.
Not
a great movie, but a good.
That's kind of like when you turn on like some Leonard Skinner song and you don't want anybody else to know that you enjoy it, but you just pull over to the side of the road where no one can see you and you belt out your shame. That's me with that Rain of Fire movie.
I feel like it has that possibility to like have really good CGI now, and then when we go back and look at it 10 years from now, we're like, oh man, this movie was really good.
Because hopefully they take what I need from this movie is Mila Jovovich wielding a weapon she had no reality should be able to pick up, and accurate monsters. Make them look like the monsters out of your own little take, like the Godzilla American adaptation. Make them look like the fucking game, and I'll give it a pass.
What
And
weapon?
Palicos.
And Palico. Oh, you better have a fucking Palico. You're
Sean,
absolutely
you just
right.
opened Sean's mind.
See, okay, I have a theory on what her weapon is going to be. What do you think she's
I
going to
want,
do? Will?
like I said, let's go balls to the wall. Give her a great
Sword?
Yes.
I feel like they're gonna limp out on us and give her dual blades because she's just done that kind of fighting in so many other movies before.
It's fair, but like I said, and you know what? If the speculation that this is more based on world, she can change them up in mid hunt.
I mean, that movie will just be made for me if I just get to see one person use a gun lance in it. I'll be like, okay.
And like I said, and hopefully there'll be other hunters, at least 3 other hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see you both pumped about that. Semi-pumped about that. That there's cool things.
Semi-chub,
Could be.
little blood.
So speaking of movies that are going to feature strong female protagonists, Miss Marvel, and this is the Kamala Khan version, is coming to the MCU. We just don't know when. I want to say, what's today, Sunday? I want to say Thursday or Friday. Marvel President Kevin Feige said that we can expect to see her on the big screen sometime after the Captain Marvel movie, that they've got plans to use her. This was part of him saying that they've got plans up to like 2028. Like that Marvel has like these plans to go above and beyond, because like we were talking about, a lot of people were worried about, well, what do we do after Thanos did what he did in the movies? They've got plans, man. They've got a roadmap to the future of Marvel, and it includes Kamala Khan, which is amazing. She's a really fun character. She's a young Muslim woman from New Jersey, from Jersey City. That's where she kind
She's a
of
girl still. She's a teenager.
yeah, she is a teenager. Sorry, she's a teenager. And you can find her on the pages of her own book and in the pages of Jim Zub's Champions, which I am a big fan of.
Well, I just thought of this because she gets her namesake from Captain Marvel. It used to be Miss Marvel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if they, have been planning this all along, and at some point in the Captain Marvel movie, we get just some little snippet of some girl watching, TV or something.
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing as Spider-Man's introduction, where he's a kid in Halloween mask. It'll be something similar, and they'll come back later and say, "Oh, look, that was her."
Well, but they've planned it out so far ahead because they didn't have rights for Spider-Man back then, so they had no way to really be like, this is definitely what's happening. That was more obscure, but now that it's actually planned and in the books, they can legitimately, if they have even casted an actor already, slide that in there, and then
They can. The thing that they're going to have to do, though, is because she's inhuman, so they're going to have some sort of Terrigen Mist happening thing go on.
Well, they've already established that in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, so that makes me think that even if that show gets canceled, that's still continuity in the cinematic universe. And for those who don't know, like Craig said, Miss Marvel is an Inhuman. She has quote-unquote embiggening powers. So think of Mr. Fantastic. Or Luffy, yeah. She can grow in size, she can stretch, she can do all these things. And what's really cool about this character is before she got affected by the Terrigen Mist, the reason she adapted Miss Marvel as her mantle, as her moniker, is because she just wrote fan fiction. She was just a girl who was really in love with these characters, and she would write fan fiction. And when they first appeared her, I'm trying to think of who it was. That first wrote her, G. Willow Wilson. When G. Willow Wilson first started writing her, she would also put out copies of what Kamala Khan's fan fiction, and so you've got these tangential elements to it, and that's just dope. That's just really cool.
That's awesome.
And even if they don't try to go off with the Captain Marvel scene in Miss Marvel, I'm sure they're going to show scenes from Captain Marvel of something happening in her
That I can
fan
very
girling.
much see happening. Her
Yeah.
girling over.
That's I didn't know that aspect about her, and that's going to be amazing because fan fiction, whether some people cringe or enjoy it, is a major part of the fandom for it today.
I'm really interested on how the fans will look at it. Not comic book fans, but just the movie fans in general, and see how they take it. Because after getting a Captain Marvel movie, how they're going to take getting a Miss Marvel movie and.
I can tell you right now, they'll be confused.
Yeah.
There's going to be a group of them that's going to think it's a younger version of Captain Marvel or a sidekick for Captain Marvel, which she is not. But of course, that's because the internet does that thing.
But kind of like how they did it. Without hopefully not directed toward, like you said, making a sidekick thing, but how they're introducing the Wasp.
Yeah.
After she was in Ant-Man, and now the next movie is called Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Well, and Sean, last episode you were talking about wanting some of these younger characters and wanting like the Young Avengers line.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going to. I mean, if they're introducing or the Champions, I don't know which version of that to do, but we're going to get these young teenage superheroes from Nadia, Pym, to who knows? There's a ton of them.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like they made the joke in the Deadpool 2 trailer. We're forming a team made up of young people who can carry the franchise on for another 10 years. It's like, but that's legitimately what they need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, and that's great. Like I said, that's another aspect of her I didn't know about. I'm not super familiar with Kamala Khan, but that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm stoked about it.
Speaking of awesome for some and sad for others, Rick and Morty has been confirmed another 70 episodes.
7 more years.
7 more years.
Sounds like we'll finally get the Szechuan sauce for Rick.
Did they really only do 10 episodes a season?
Roughly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think some seasons been like a couple more or a couple less, but yeah.
See, maybe I read that wrong, because I thought they said that many more episodes for the next season. So I was like spitballing in my mind about like, they're going to be like 10-second episodes.
That would be
like fans.
what
would be
if,
crazy.
what if that's what the writing was and none of us caught it?
No, they even said it was going to be 10 seasons. Or
Okay.
7 seasons.
Okay.
So Caleb, how do you feel about that?
It makes you guys happy, and that makes me happy.
It does.
That's my nice boy answer.
Right. I get the turnoffs of the show from certain people, whether it be the writing style, the randomness, or the fan base. It can definitely be a turnoff for that show. I appreciate it because it is another one of those series which you have to want to put the time in, but once you actually start getting into the episodes, it's more than just random references and random just humor and weirdness. Like there is a world that he
for sure.
around.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is there definitely is a soap opera type storyline going on underneath.
Absolutely.
Not soap opera, but
There's an ongoing narrative.
Absolutely. Where maybe they might, kind of like X-Files was, you may skip an episode that doesn't have anything really to do with that ongoing narrative, but then you kind of go back to the main story. It's kind of that same feel. Once you get past all the goofiness and silliness, there really is a story to it.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I can't remember what the first episode I saw was, and it was like, okay, I see what they're kind of doing. This is the era of still Family Guy influence of this random wackiness. Then Hulu had it all up on one day, and I just marathoned it. And by the time we got to the last episode of that first season, I'm like, there is more to the show than
Yeah,
it's got a really deep backstory there with alcohol abuse and just the family. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see how Morty's kind of shifting from season 1 into how he's become at this point.
Yes.
Well, he's becoming more like Beth and less like Jerry.
Mm-hmm. But and then a
In
little
his
bit more like
personality.
Rick.
In a little, well, that's the Rick influence on Beth, because she's a little bit of a hard ass too, even though you don't pick that up until about middle of the second season. But so that scene where he's threatening the kid at the campfire for treating his sister wrong.
Oh yeah.
And he's just I forget what he said, but it was just
You hurt my sister.
Yeah, you hurt my sister.
Shouldn't have done
And he's
that.
burning his s'more at the time.
and like I said, a lot of people, they think Rick is just that doesn't give a shit smart ass that we see all the time, and that's what a lot of people who watch a show but don't really get the show kind of emulate. He says he doesn't give a fuck. He's great. I want to be like that. There's no care. It's like, no, he's actually a very sad character. Because think about it, when you have the knowledge of the universes and the multiverses, to where that nothing matters, you can't help but become nihilistic.
Mm-hmm.
That he's just it doesn't matter, because why should I care about anything or anyone when I could jump to the next dimension and it's all fixed?
And he uses drugs and alcohol to drown.
To kill the pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, Caleb, I know it's not your jam.
It's not, and that's fine though.
It's a good show, and I'm happy to hear more.
Everything is not for everybody. Absolutely. We say that all the time. I don't have to. I don't like absurdist comedy in general. The depth to which you guys are talking about it, I have the utmost respect for the fact that you guys can see it in there. One of the things that kind of turns me off on the show is I don't think that they make those things readily available for the caliber of humans that tend to watch that show. And so that people have a hard time picking up on the depth that's there. And hey, sometimes I have a hard time separating things from their fan base, like you just said.
Absolutely.
For some reason, that particular show attracts a special brand of misogynist, a special brand of sexist and homophobic type of person. I don't like those people, and that has put a bad taste on the show. And that is not the show's fault. That's my hang up with it. So, and I fully admit those things. But I mean, even in general, I'm not into absurdist comedy. Because of all the Brooklyn Nine-Nine hoopla, I didn't even know what a Brooklyn Nine-Nine was until like last week, and it got canceled, and everybody was upset about it. So I was like, okay, what is this? Jerry and a few other people were like, oh, it's a show. Watch it. I don't enjoy it myself, so I watched like the first 10 episodes. It's not my bag, but I appreciate that other people appreciate it. It's got some very funny moments, but I mean, I'm saying all this just to make people understand that I don't hate it just to hate it. There is a certain type of comedy that I enjoy. There's a certain type of show that I enjoy. It just doesn't fit into it, and I don't watch a lot of TV in the first place. So, I'm defending myself for some reason, and I don't know why. I love that you guys love this show.
Well, I do want to say one thing. I'm sorry, Sean. I do want to say one thing in response to what you said. I don't want us to give the opinion that we believe that all Rick and Morty fans are homophobes and misogynists and that sort of thing. I think the Rick and Morty fandom spans a lot of things, as does South Park and some of these other similar shows. Their fan base, even comic books, the fan base is a wide spectrum of people. You can't let a segment of the fan base run, and you're not going to like it regardless. I'm just saying in general, don't let a section of the fan base ruin your enjoyment of a fandom or a property, an intellectual property, because some other people are talking.
Right, no, for sure. Don't give folks free rent in your head. Make them pay for it. Since DC Comics launched their Rebirth line, as they're kind of moving forward, they got out of the DC's New 52. Several of their books they've been holding strong at the $2.99 price point, and a lot of these books were the books that double shipped every month. They announced that they are doing away with the $2.99 price point. All of DC's books are going to be $3.99 now, and that doesn't matter if they come out once a month or twice a month, or like the No Justice books or weekly. All their books are going to be $3.99. Which kind of, if you're on a budget, that hurts, especially when they're coming out twice a month, because you're already paying $6 for $2 a month. Now you're jumping up literally 25% of the cost. For me, that's not going to keep me from buying the books that I already like and am reading. But what it is going to do, because I am on a budget, I do budget out how much I'll spend a month. It is going to keep me from buying other books that I have not tried, or stuff just to see if I'm going to like it, or just to revisit characters. For instance, Aquaman. I'm not reading Aquaman. Every once in a while, I'll purchase an Aquaman book just to see what's going on, see what Dan Abnett's up to in the book. That's going to kind of keep me from doing that now, because you're upping. I buy several books a month, and that's going to be probably an extra $15 or $20 a month out of my pocket. So.
Well, Marvel's been doing it for a long time.
They have.
Marvel's been at $3.99 a long time, so this is nothing new in the comic industry.
Or $4.99.
Or $4.99, or sometimes $7.99.
Yeah.
So my thing with it is we were told that back when it was $2.99, well, yeah, you're getting less pages, but you're paying less money, and you're getting it twice a month. Are we going to get a full comic book again for $3.99?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Are they going to continue at the 22 pages that they were at for the $2.99? Which is fine, because they did it to split it. I mean, they got to do what they got to do to make a living, or to be profitable. But like you said, it's going to cause people to make those hard decisions and focus on the books that they're truly reading versus branching out and buying other books.
Well, and they held out for as long as they could, apparently, because they have held out at the $2.99 price point for a long time. I imagine somewhere in the DC offices, some person whose job is to look at numbers on spreadsheets said, hey, dropping this down, we did not see a boost in our sales numbers at $2.99. We also know that it's not going to hurt us as much as people will say that it will. These people, their job is to analyze numbers. They've looked at past trends and said, hey, we're not gonna lose a lot of numbers if we go up to $3.99. And it's a cost benefit analysis. So I'm sure that's what's happened. They just said, hey, it's not gonna affect the books that are coming off the shelves if we just do this and we set everything at the same price point. So
I mean, we can spend an entire episode on pricing for comics and what they can do to fix it.
And we might.
Stay tuned next week. No.
I mean, there's a lot of things. They can do some advertising in the books. They can do. Not every cover has to be a glossy cover.
Holy crap! Hold on, sorry. Yeah. Southern Fried Geekery special. How Southern Fried Geekery will save the comic industry.
Oh God,
it's happening.
I'm not.
Our heads will swell. Our egos will grow. We can fix it.
I just love that they waited until 40 issues in, and then they were like,
Well,
"Oh, we already got you. We got the hook on you guys."
Well, they're getting ready to restart
Yeah.
anyways. If we're being honest, issue 52 is going to be the end of Rebirth, and I think we've all known that for a minute.
Yeah.
And early on, didn't they do the whole thing where they had bi-weekly books, and then they decided that they were going to put it back to a monthly basis, and then they raised the price? I think that there were at least 2 or 3
They
titles.
did on
There's
some
some
books,
titles.
but not line wide. But yeah, they did that on
The
some
main
books.
titles are all still twice a month.
Yeah.
So, ending on a little bit of a more positive note, is they announced that Obi-Wan Kenobi's solo movie is actually starting filming soon, and they're expecting a release next year.
They had
Nice.
an Obi-Wan and Han Solo crossover movie?
No.
You said Obi-Wan solo movie.
I thought it said Obi-Wan Kenobi solo movie.
Jared,
It's not a hyphenated Kenobi.
Are you sure? Did you just catch that?
So,
wow.
So yeah, it's going to be next year, which means we would actually have, for the first time since Disney took over, we would have 2 Star Wars movies in the same year.
Well, hello there.
Yeah, hello there.
Question, because I'm obviously out the loop. Have they confirmed who's starring?
Oh, it's going to be Ewan McGregor. They haven't confirmed it, but he's been in talks with them from the beginning. So I have no doubt that the script was written with the intention of Ewan McGregor playing that.
And I mean, they're probably going to base it in between 3 and 4.
Yeah,
So
it's going to happen between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and there's going to be something that happens that makes him leave planet to go take care of something or do something.
we'll get to see what he was doing before Rebels.
Or it could be, there's a lot of stories of him protecting Luke that you don't even know about. It could be him dealing with Jabba the Hutt stuff. We don't know what it could be.
He's kind of that man on the wall character through a lot lot of Luke's life where Luke didn't know he was there.
Yeah, there was a book recently that came out that had a lot of backstories in it, and it actually had a few for Obi-Wan Kenobi and how the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, actually feared him and considered him to be the crazy wizard. Mainly because Anakin destroyed that camp. So they feared anybody with a lightsaber, and they knew that he was not a Jedi because they didn't have terms for that, but they knew that he was in that same kind of caliber of person, so they really feared him. So
I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Awesome.
So whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be fun.
I enjoy a good Star Wars film.
And having Ewan McGregor in the Star Wars universe again is fantastic.
Right.
So,
Well, anybody else got any other news bits other than the last one that we want to get to? No, going once, going twice. All right. Well, the last thing in the news is it's not really news if everybody knows it, but hey, Deadpool 2 comes out this week, and we just did a special on the Avengers, blah blah blah.
You got it. You got this.
On the Avengers film. Sorry, I get a little tongue tied. I'm trying to drink coffee. And we love these. We love seeing these people come out of the pages onto the comic books on the big screen. Super pumped about it. Deadpool 1 was hilarious. It was funny. It was my kind of comedy. Really dug it. Action packed. I think Ryan Reynolds does a great job. Really, really pumped about seeing him again, but also seeing the new characters that they're bringing in, which Sean actually knows a lot more about than I do, because he knows a lot more about that continuity than I do. But I'm happy. We could see Domino.
Because they're bringing in X-Force.
Yeah, X-Force, not X-Factor.
Not X-Factor.
Yeah.
No, you are correct. No, it's and granted, it's not like, my knowledge of X-Force really does relegate back to the New Mutants evolution into X-Force.
Right.
The early group. And they've got, Shatterstar and Domino for sure running through them top of my head. I think there's some later X-Force when I kind of fell off the book or joined it as well. But, just to have Cable, Domino, and Shatterstar on one team is, well, Cable supposedly. We'll see how the movie's supposed to end. He is the antagonist. But they're all in the same movie at least. So.
Well, and the tangential characters, you've got that scene where they're all getting ready to jump off the plane. Apparently there's a comedic element to where they hired a member of the team off of an online hiring service.
Well, yeah, they put out a I can't think of the word now, an ad for a team, and then he showed up.
I hope that this spins into, and I know they're not owned by the same people yet, but in Ant-Man, there was an entire storyline where the villains had an app to get together.
That was so great.
It was great. So I hope that that's what that spins into, that they use that for Ant-Man villains.
I think that was Nick Spencer's run.
Yeah. It was great.
But yeah, super excited about the movie coming out. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are, and let us know. I mean, post up your Deadpool swag. Post up your favorite comics. Post up New Mutants 98 if you have it as a picture on all of our social media, just to make Caleb sadder.
Yeah, because I don't own that book. Craig owns 4, as he was just showing
4 fingers.
Jerry, you own it as well, don't you?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, he has to go through his inventory.
And Sean owns it. Not only does Sean owe it, Sean, how much did you pay for that?
Cover price, as I bought it new off the stand when it came out.
That's old school, folks. He's been doing this for a minute.
I love some New Mutants.
Yeah, I actually only own 2. My son owns 2.
Yeah.
But I've bought 4.
I don't own it. I do own Deadpool #1 by Fabian Nicieza, and I got it signed. That's kind of that's my Deadpool treasure.
That doesn't count.
It does. Shut up. Leave me alone. It's mine. It's my baby. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. Do any of y'all have tickets yet? When are y'all planning on seeing the film?
I have tickets.
Craig has tickets to a movie before any of us do. Breaking news. Speaking of breaking news.
Stephanie loves Deadpool.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're going to go watch Deadpool on Saturday.
My Stephanie is going to be out of town all weekend, so I got to wait till next week.
Oh.
Vanetta wants to go. It's amazing that
Vanetta
wants to go.
Significant others?
It'll probably be Sunday after the con, since it closes at like 5. We're going to probably look into a Sunday night show.
Yeah. Well, can I just explain to you guys all why your spouses like Deadpool's the Deadpool
No, we all know why.
Have you seen Ryan Reynolds' ass in leather pants?
We all know.
Even when it's cancerous? And
I don't care.
Okay, that's clarification.
Ryan Reynolds' ass in leather pants on a giant screen.
I thought it was the bulge.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was when he stapled Wolverine's face to his
Hugh Jackman.
Roger hasn't said whether or not he wants to go see this, so I don't know if he'll want me to go with him or go without him. He knows how much I love this stuff, so if he's got to work or something like that, he'll just tell me to go by myself, and I don't mind letting him watch the movie alone. So get my popcorn, have some quiet time.
Yeah, you can come Sunday night with me and V.
I may. I don't know what we're doing, so I'll have to check, but I may very well do that. And I'll check with him and see what he wants to do, because, at the end of the day, I like to run those things by him, a.k.a. ask for permission, because that's how you keep a good marriage going. Man, so again, there were probably a lot more things that happened this week. Everybody can go out to our Facebook page and join the group, join in, talk about it. If you have news, post it, see what we're talking about on other ones. Sean's really good about getting conversations going, so it's a lot of fun. We may have missed some things, so let us know what you've been hearing and what it is. As we are recording this right now, it's a very special day. And we are actually pretty lucky that our significant others are letting us be here and record on this day, as it is a special day. It's Mother's Day. It's the one day of the year that we take time to specifically acknowledge our moms, although you should probably do that every day. The people who gave us life and the people who sustained us through life on some level, and that can be from your birth mother or somebody who's just a mother figure in your life. Blood doesn't make a family. I'm living proof of that. I'm living proof that blood can make a family. So, I've got there's some things happening there. I'm not going to work out my issues on the show. Let me get back on track. So it's Mother's Day, and we decided that because we were going to record on Mother's Day, that we wanted to talk a little bit about some of our favorite moms in comics. So, who wants to start us off?
I'll go. When you start talking about mother figures in comics, I think you have to talk about Aunt May.
Absolutely.
This is a woman that it was her... Peter is not even her blood nephew. It's her husband's brother's son.
Yep.
And they took in Peter after the death of his parents, raised him as their own. Of course, we know the story. Peter gets bitten, he turns into Spider-Man, and then Uncle Ben dies. through everything, through all the years, she was his mother. It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, he had a biological mother, but she was his mom through years and years and years of stories. And I'm going to tell you that Back in Black series, when they killed Aunt May,
That hurt.
That we've talked about previously.
yeah, and he goes nuts and goes to one of my favorite Spider-Man stories ever is when he breaks into the prison
To fight Kingpin.
Yeah, to fight Kingpin and stops just short of killing him because he's that. If you need to know anything more about how Peter feels about Aunt May, whether she's his mom or not, that story tells you everything.
Find that in trade paperback.
Yeah. And, I mean, she just took on that role. She's the quintessential mother figure to me in comics, being a Spider-Man fan.
Well, and she is the matriarch figure, but she's also his moral center for a lot of his stuff. She, one of the most famous phrases of Spider-Man is, "With great power comes great responsibility," and she's a constant and continuous reminder of that. Reminder that Peter, it's okay to be human and it's okay to feel and not to get above yourself.
Well, so Peter could have ended up in the foster system and still gotten bitten by the spider.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, it's the same story as Luke Skywalker. Without those center, the moral adopted parents that raised them, how would have they turned out?
Right.
How would have Peter Parker been had he grown up in a foster system? I'm not saying he wouldn't have been the same person, but had he got bitten by that spider with that power and didn't have that moral compass in his background, how would have he turned out? He could have very well been the big villain in the Marvel universe.
We all learned a lot about how to care for humans from Aunt May.
Right?
We really did. I'll go next. It's really funny, and I was going to talk about her, but we talked about it earlier, and you said you did. So I was doing a little bit of research on Aunt May, just reading about it on a wiki page last night. Do you guys know the story of how, I guess the quote-unquote accepted story about how Peter Parker's real birth parents died?
Yeah, I mean, they've changed it throughout time, but it's pretty tragic. Go ahead and share it.
So apparently, and I just learned this yesterday, apparently they were undercover CIA agents double agents working as implants into Red Skull's thing. And he caught them. The cover got blown, and he just slaughtered them. I had no idea. So that's just a little bit of Spider-Man history that I thought was fun.
Well, in the Ultimate Universe, I want to say it was Lizard Man Connor. I can't think of his first name, but Kurt Connor and Peter's dad were scientists working together, and the symbiote that became Venom was actually designed by them instead of an alien.
You mean the symbiote?
No, symbiote.
Oh, no.
So the symbiote was actually designed by them as opposed to a alien.
Right on.
And Kurt needed it for his regenerative stuff, and anyways, he ended up killing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that was to say I was reading about her, but ended up you doing it. The mom I want to talk about is Lois Lane, who I think is possibly maybe this generation's version of Aunt May for the DC continuity. Lois Lane became a mom because Alan Moore and Kurt Swan introduced a character of Jonathan Kent way back in, I want to say, the early 80s, or maybe it was late 70s, even before that. But we really don't get the true character of her being a mom until very recently with the Rebirth line, where John Kent has taken on the mantle of Superboy, which beforehand belonged to Connor Kent, who was Superboy as part of the Legions of Superheroes and that kind of stuff. But so now you have Superboy running around, and him and Damian Wayne are doing a lot together in their Super Sons runs. But you really do get to see how, in Lois, a really human element of caring and compassion and struggle with a life that is. How do you wrangle a life that is very easily out of your control? Her husband is the Man of Steel. Her son is Superboy. Both of these people have superhuman strengths and stuff. but she's largely their rock, and she is such a huge figure in the Superman world. Clark Kent isn't Clark Kent without Lois Lane. And she is a wonderful wife and mother to him. And a lot of these lessons about how to be a human, how to function in this with these hyper powerful. How do you if you're a character who can break the world, how do you make that person not lose it? How do you instill morals and values and ethics and a work ethic and a drive? These really human elements and human emotions into a character. And that's Lois Lane. She's doing it. If you go and you read Dan Jurgens' Action Comics run that he's been going on, she is a huge part in that. She's a working mom. They play up her role as a journalist in that book really well. You can go into just a number of things. The Superboy line, like I said, the Super Sons. She has a big role to play in that, and in a lot of ways, in that book she gets to be a tangential mother figure to Damian Wayne, to the current Robin. Which God knows he needs it, because you want to talk about a dysfunctional, fucked up family, that boy's got it. But yeah, I love Lois Lane's character as a mom. I think she's doing a wonderful job. It's great to see her in that role.
Yeah, I mean, in that story, you got Clark was raised by Mom Pa Kent, Martha. But they raised him grounded in these morals because they didn't know any other way. He didn't know any other way until his power started blossoming or whatever. But then you have Jonathan that's seeing his dad, or he knows what he's going to become. He can see what his potential is. So how do you keep that kid grounded?
Right.
And that's a trick. And Lois is doing it. So,
I guess to segue off of that, I'll talk about the best mother in the DC universe, Batman. He is by far.
Wow. Yes, you should absolutely put all of your children in tights and let them go out and get their butts kicked on a nightly basis.
Make sure they're not allergic to crowbars.
You've got a little too much iron in your blood.
Damn.
No, actually, I'm going to talk about Alana from Saga.
Yeah.
Okay. She's one of the main characters from Okay, they have a lot of main characters in that
There
book.
are a lot.
But that's how the book started, is with her becoming a mother. And it's literally been her and Marco's fight to keep Hazel away from all of this harm. And
Yep.
she's been sacrificing since the beginning for it. She had her moments whenever they got to the open circuit, and she was trying to do the escapism and got hooked on drugs and stuff for a minute there.
The opera
Yeah,
segments,
and that kind of had a falling out of its own. And leading up to that, Hazel ended up in jail. And then her and Marco risked everything to save her, and she's killed people and taken damage and everything protecting her child. And it's just
Yeah, I mean, not only is it a marriage that's against all laws and rules with the warring races they are, their kid is not supposed to be able to happen.
Yeah.
And she's just like that super mom who just protects and will do anything for her child.
And she's gone through a lot, because she actually had a really abusive father growing up, and that's the whole reason why she even went into the military, and eventually was growing tired of all of the violence and everything, and then joined the secret book club, which led her to Marco eventually, and then that's essentially what started the story off.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Saga, like a lot of comics, most comics are it's a metaphor for a lot of social issues. And in that character, Brian K. Vaughan writes it in such a way that you do get a really good insight into what it's like to be a parent who is trying to shield your child, in this case her daughter, from violence, from hatred, from bigotry from the outside world, because in this case it's a metaphor for being a mixed race child. It's largely a metaphor for having parents who are of two different races and dealing with that, and how do you raise your child and shield your child from that anger. and from what the universe has decided, in this case, the universe, or what other people have decided that is taboo and that should not happen, and it's wonderful.
They essentially label Hazel as like an abomination and
Yeah.
everything, and it's up to her mother to protect her from that outside world. And
Yeah, I mean, as a gay man, I've got nieces, and my older niece has called me upset and crying because people around her town they know she's got a gay uncle, and I can only imagine what it's like to have that be your actual child. I know, having a person being married to a person of a different race, is that something that, Sean, you've had to worry about or consider? Or?
We've been very lucky. No one's been dumb enough
Right.
to approach us directly about anything. But you get the stares from both sides.
Yeah.
You get anyone who just doesn't agree with a mixed race couple or even the same sex couples. They just don't agree. They just give you those little sneers, and you feel them, you see them. But no, it's something a lot of people have to deal with. And like I said, we don't have children, so we've never. That's a lot more. Kids are more likely to run up to your face and give you the shit about it. So yeah, it's definitely a problem. And books like Saga, they definitely address it on a grand cosmic, alien adventure story.
Yeah, they make it a
Absolutely.
metaphor, man.
Absolutely.
It's deep. There's a lot of depth to it.
It's Brian K. Vaughan.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he's one of the guys that writes the human condition as well as there's a handful of them out there in comic books that write the human condition so freaking well, and Brian K. Vaughan nails it almost every time.
Yeah.
And whatever that human condition he's choosing to address, and in this one, it's Romeo and Juliet. It's a lot of different things, but it is that metaphor for mixed race and how people respond to it. So
overall, it's a big parenting book.
it is.
Really
With a
is.
lot of good sex.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it opened with Marco pounding her.
Yeah, no. Because remember, the first line is I'm gonna shit.
Oh,
Because
okay.
she's
yeah.
giving birth.
That's right.
But many issues open
Yeah.
with Martin
Yeah.
pounding her.
Yeah, I just want to point out that that's the most unrealistic part of that book, is how much they are a happy married couple with kids and still have a lot of good sex, because that doesn't exist in real life.
They're on a spaceship. So, I mean, there's a lot of that book that doesn't exist in real life.
Yeah, like even going to when she miscarried that one time.
Yeah.
Like and all of
Oh my
that she went
gosh,
through.
yeah.
Like that was just some crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
she's been one of the strongest mothers in comics that I've
Yeah,
read,
absolutely.
and just gotten through it all.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, my pick is actually, I'm gonna try and bring a little class into this book.
Okay.
Because legitimately, the mother I'm picking is actually Maxine Dragon from Savage Dragon.
Okay.
Now, if any of y'all listened a couple episodes ago when we last did our comic reviews, I talked about Savage Dragon. When she became a mother, it was the end of her life. What I do want to talk about is a little history beforehand, because everyone's read the headlines if you kept up with comics about Savage Dragon and the hypersexual issues they had recently. She was a hypersexual being. No denying that. Like I said, she was early relationship was with Malcolm Dragon in high school, and was trying to get his affection from other girls, which led to a four-way.
Mhm.
Which I think I brought that up before, but and the end result of that is that Dragon has 3 kids from different women, none of them Maxine. And all of them, for one reason or another, are out the picture. So Maxine taking the kids of 3 girls she was competing for Malcolm's affection with, and has been raising them like a mother.
Yeah.
To the point to where these are super powered alien dragon babies that like literally rip the arm off a neighbor when he got too close because they don't know their own strength. They never touch her. And that is, like I said, that was a big part of her. She was raising them. Like I said, she raised them as kids with no judgment. She loved them to death. And it just kind of shows, like in a book that's not as well written as, like say, a Brian K. Vaughan story, you get that little bit of that aspect of that character you see besides the infamous sexual scenes.
Right.
But it showed that, she was a caring mother to the kids, took care of Dragon. Like you said, a lot of happy sex, even with the kids, unrealistic as it may be. And then it finally happened that she got pregnant by Malcolm. And it's ultimately what killed her.
Right.
At least for now, we are dealing with multiverses and Dragon stories, so it may not be a permanent thing, but in a book of blood, guts, tits, and ass, she was a good mother. and she took care of the kids, and she raised them. And she passed away recently. So, I want to give a shout out to that. I think it's a good, well written character in a very grindhouse story.
Yeah, Savage Dragon is a lot of things. It is sometimes crude. It is sometimes overly political. It's sometimes overly sexualized, and it's just sometimes real human. For say what you want about the guy. The guy who writes it, he taps into a different stuff, and he's one of the longest running comics, and he writes what's on his soul. Eric Larson writes what's on his soul a lot of the times, and sometimes that gets very human.
I mean, what issue is it up to now, Sean? About
224, 225, something
I mean,
like
you
that.
don't get up over that many issues without doing something right and having something that at least a handful of people are responding to.
Yeah.
I don't know what the print number is. For
They
his
sell
monthly, but-
less than 3,000 books a month.
But, I mean, he's in a position at that company too, but you still don't get to that point. It's got to be a labor of love.
Yeah.
To stay in a book that long and continue the story that long. So, props to him and, props to her for being a good mom to stepkids, which isn't always an easy thing.
No.
So,
Shout out to another great mom, Cable, with Hope.
I mean, you're not lying.
That was a great run.
There's a new book out that I haven't gotten a chance to read yet, but it's from DC, and it's part of their new hero characters.
Yeah.
Sideways?
Not Sideways. That's the Spider-Man.
Yeah, but that's a very good mother in that one.
Is it?
Yeah, she's adopted him as a child and is raising him, yeah.
And then there's the other one, the one I was thinking of, and I keep...
Brimstone?
No, it's not Brimstone. It's the one that's got the mom who is... She used to be connected to Talia al Ghul.
Silencer.
Silencer, yeah. Haven't read that yet, but I've read reviews on it.
Very good.
She goes back into an old life that did not necessarily... it was not necessarily what she wanted to protect her family and her kids. So
Yeah, she's having to kill everybody in this assassin organization, similar to the League of Shadows, in order to protect her family because they won't let her out, even though she's been out for years now. It's a very good story.
Yeah, lots of great moms in comics. Lots of great moms. And you know what? Like I said, today we're recording this on Mother's Day. By the time most of the people are listening to this, it's at least Tuesday of next week. So, if you didn't call your mama, if you didn't call the woman that serves as your mother figure, she doesn't have to actually be your mama. Reach out to her. Reach out to the women in your life that have been that for you, because they deserve your respect and your thanks every day. But we do have this one day a year called Mother's Day, so send them to and thank you, all of you amazing, strong, intelligent, beautiful women who keep us dudes from becoming major fuck ups. We really appreciate your guidance and your advice and everything you do for our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say that includes Craig's wife Stephanie, who is in many ways mother to us all as part of this group.
I mean, you're not lying.
No, I mean she is. She keeps us in line. So
She is a mama bear.
And if we have not listed your favorite mother from comics, anime, movies, pop culture, feel free to post up on our Facebook, Instagram, any of our social media. Sound off. Let us know who your favorite mothers are in Geekery.
Shout out to the best mom in manga, Midoriya's mom.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And Luffy's mom. Oh, wait.
Wait, have you seen her?
Maybe, probably. I don't know.
I don't. Why are you looking at me? I don't know.
So we like to see your reaction when we talk about stuff you don't understand.
Just one eye goes this way.
But that leads into manga ramen.
It does.
That's it.
Why don't y'all tell us what manga ramen is, and then get into what you're going to talk about?
So this is where Sean and I get the spotlight, and Caleb gets a ball gag for the rest of this little section. The next 10 to 15 minutes.
Promises.
Giggity desu.
Don't threaten me with a good time. And we get to talk about an anime series or a manga series that we really enjoy and would recommend to anybody. Last week we talked about Gantz.
Yes.
Was it? No, week before last. Whatever. Last time we talked about something, we talked about Gantz. Now we're going to kind of soften it up a little bit. It's still somewhat of a bit of a dark series.
It can get dark.
But it's not as fucked up as Gantz.
Some of the episodic, it's an episodic series. Go ahead and tell.
So the series we're going to talk about today is Keno's Journey. Where Sean in a minute is going to get into the prior series that they've done and everything, but for the most part we'll be discussing the new season that just released. I think it started coming out last year.
Yeah, last year Crunchyroll had the newest. I don't know. No, I did the research, but I didn't research enough. I don't know if this was ever a retelling or just a continuation.
It was a continuation.
Okay, because Keno's Journey actually started off as light novels back in March of 2000. March 17th of 2000. It's written by Keiichi Sigsawa, drawn, and the illustrations, which were in the which as you know, light novels have a few drawings here and there, so you can't get ideas. But it's not like a traditional manga or comic. Mm-hmm. But the illustrations were by Kohaku Kurobashi. It stars I never know how to say this word. The titler, character Keno. And her motorcycle Hermes, who is just as much of a character in itself because it is a sentient motorcycle. The first had an anime in 2003 with 13 episodes. The second one came out in 2005, as well as 2 animated short films. And then, of course, in 2017, as we mentioned, is the newest series. It's been a well-received series. 8.2 million copies sold of the light novels since its release.
My the first time I ever saw anything on Keno's Journey, you remember back in the day when I can't remember what anime magazine it was, but they used to come with sort of like how game magazines came with demo discs. And
You're talking New Type magazine.
New Type
had the previews.
Yeah, and
disc in it, yes.
And they had a DVD that came with a bunch of little episodes from different various series, and it was to get people into it. And I found out about a lot of anime, and they actually had an episode of Keno's Journey in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think after that I picked up, it had a manga, right? Cause
there was eventually a manga adaptation, but the original source is light novel.
I feel like I've read some of the manga, but the premise of it is fairly simple. It's just Keno with her talking motorcycle. Yep. Just going, they have these giant, in their world, they have these giant walled-in cities, which they call countries. Yeah. I guess you could just call them countries. But every single one of them is governed in its own way, has its own laws and own thing about it that makes it interesting. And it's Keno's journey, so it's Keno going and staying to usually a maximum of 3 days.
3 days, 2 nights. That's the rule.
And experiencing, all there is to experience, maybe learning history, and oftentimes getting into adventures. Sometimes it's a good turnout, sometimes it's a bloody turnout, sometimes it's kind of sad. Always meeting colorful characters along the way. And then they, in this, I can't remember in the previous series, but in this series that they did, they had a few characters that they introduced us to. And then later on, they'll have like their own episode.
Exactly, which was cool because, like I said, even though it's called Keno's Journey, it's really about the world, and it's all just. Granted, you see through Keno, you meet everything, but it expands on, like I said, with those extra characters, and the show. I mean, it jumps off right off the bat because, like I said, every country has its own laws and rules, and they throw you in right off the bat to let you know that this is not your world. The first country she goes into. The rule of that country, which she hears early from a traveler on there, that you're going to a country where killing is fully legal. You are allowed to murder people as you want.
So it's like the Purge full time.
In a sense. But there's a twist that you think and Keno carries 2 guns on her at all times. She knows how to handle herself, as you find out in this episode. And there's even threats of you wait until you get in that country and because she gets into it with this person, I can kill you in that country. It's no big deal.
Yeah, he's essentially trying to talk her into using the motorcycle to help him get there. And she's like, no, I'm cool. You can make your own way. And he's basically threatening her and stuff at this point.
And the kind of to get a little bit into this episode, I still want to talk about a lot of the other countries.
Oh, yeah.
The short end of the first episode is he gets in there and he starts immediately threatening stuff and starts attacking Keno, and he's shooting at her, and she's kind of figured out what's going on already in this country, so she's just hiding.
Well, one of the things early on, whenever she gets there, it's peaceful because she's expecting, some kind of violence and stuff, and she gets there and everything's just completely normal. Everyone's super nice, and she doesn't really see anything wrong with it. And eventually, on her last day, this guy shows up.
Right, and he's, like I said, still mad about everything, so he's trying to kill her. He's like, and he's boastfully, I can kill you, and nothing's gonna happen. This is perfectly legal. Then I think he gets shot with an arrow.
Somebody with a crossbow.
Then you start seeing everyone in the town coming out with guns, axes, knives, swords. And he's like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm not going to let you kill her. And he's like, but it's perfectly legal in this town. Yeah, but it's frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're allowed to, you don't just go around murder. This ain't a town of murderers.
Mm-hmm.
But they can kill you with no repercussion if you start shit, basically. And that's an interesting take on, like you said, you immediately went to Purge where everyone's this chaos and anarchy, but in this weird way, they found their own peace.
It's more of like a lawless Wild West where it's kind of self-governed.
Yeah.
Well, or, the commentary may be that, humanity will still find its moral compass regardless of what the law is.
And they even have other cities. Not every city is just a giant walled-in place. They've had one where it's a giant traveling city, like it's constantly in motion and
it's
constantly moving.
It moves.
And then they have another one that they pop up later on that's a giant ship that's constantly moving on the ocean, and it's people have never seen land before.
And it's all governed by their own laws. Like the big thing, like there was one where as soon as she gets in, she has to sign up for wasn't a gladiatorial fight.
Yeah, and if you win the gladiatorial fight, you can be a member of their society.
So as you can imagine from these different societies, different takes, it's commentary on a lot of laws, either ancient or new, that real life countries still adhere to.
Right.
And it's and all this combined with beautiful animation.
Yeah.
This great, you learn solely about Keno's history. Like we calling her, which is kind of a spoiler, admittedly. They don't even reveal it because she's very you couldn't tell if it's a boy or girl.
Androgynous, yeah.
Very androgynous and intentionally so, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And but you also get Keno's history throughout this season as well. So it's a phenomenal series. I don't think it got a lot of press, a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And that's why we wanted to talk about it today, because it was a great journey.
Yeah.
Now, is this available on Crunchyroll?
Crunchyroll has it.
Yeah, they're actually, for this newest series, they licensed Keno's Journey. And I'm really hoping that enough people watch it to where they just kind of make more, because I'd really like to see more of it.
Or at least release the old. If this was a continuation, like you were saying, I'd like to see the rest.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the other stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, from what I can remember from that one-off episode that I saw on that disc, it wasn't any of those that they had in that new season. So I think it was newer stuff. And I mean, that manga's been coming out for quite a while, or the light novels have been coming out for quite a while.
Yeah, since 2000.
Yeah.
In Japan, at least. And I know they only got translated here recently, but the manga came out first, even though it's a later adaptation.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that may be kind of ignorant?
What's that?
As most of my stuff. What is the difference between a manga and a light novel?
Light novel is just like a novel, just words.
It's just
dialogue.
prose?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sorry,
They call them light novels because it's really they're still about the size. What would you call a novel here? That's a short story.
A novel is around
Novella.
50,000 words. A novella is underneath that, and then short stories are underneath.
Probably around a novella.
Like 5 to 8.
It's more like a novella than like a Michael Crichton thick novel.
Mm-hmm.
So but they also come with a few illustrations sprinkled in, so you can see the designs and the characters that they're kind of.
That makes perfect sense. I just didn't know if that was just an industry.
I wasn't sure if we
thing
had covered that or not, so I'm glad you asked.
And they have 21 volumes of the light novel, and it's still coming out.
And I would imagine there's at least, I would guess maybe, light novels. I would say they probably have at least, with the episodes being literally being episodic, because they, other than a few characters popping back up, it is each country in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine you visit at least probably at a minimum 3 countries in every light novel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
I think it would be an interesting read as well, and I believe they are starting to get translated here now.
Very cool.
But yeah, and there's always that crazy twist towards
And
the
there
middle
is,
of the end.
Because you come in, even if it's either fucked up in the beginning or weirdly peaceful, and then turns
progressively fucked up.
And then they have those episodes where it's so peaceful, and you're expecting something to happen, and it was just a really nice episode.
So are the light novels, and you may not know this or not, are the light novels written by the same author in the way that the A lot of the mangas are all written and drawn by the same person.
It is the same from what I read on the wiki. It's the same author for all the novels and the same illustrator. And like I said, in the manga, which I don't think is the same illustrator, it's a different team because it's an adaptation of the light novels.
Very cool.
So,
So I have a question, a little off topic, but it has to do with manga and anime. About how many manga do you think you read a month? Different.
not nearly enough. Because of this show, I read more comics now than I used to read manga. But I mean, regularly I'm on about 2 or 3 to be honest, that come out weekly publications.
Okay.
You know, One Piece, My Hero Academia, because I read them on the sites that you shouldn't be, but I'm purchasing them as they come out here.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we are behind, but I want to read the current. So I would I would like to buy more, honestly, but yeah, probably about 2 or 3 a month.
Okay.
Well, you got to keep up with what Deku's doing.
Got to.
Jerry?
I'm about the same
Yeah.
on that. There's also some manhwa that I've been wanting to get
That's a new word.
caught up on. It's is it Korean manga? Essentially?
You got me, brother. I'm a Japanese guy.
Hold on. I know that the way that they publish a lot of those, instead of them being like pages you flip, it's one long.
Like a
So-
scroll.
Yeah, so you scroll down to it, and there's been a few that I've followed over the years that I've gotten a little behind on that I'm trying to get caught up on
Okay.
right now.
All right. Just a curiosity.
Well, is our manga ramen bowl empty?
Our manga, it was a full plate, and we appreciate it. Ikidakimasu.
Right on. Well, guys, thank you for that. I learned new stuff from you guys.
You're welcome, Caleb.
You're very welcome.
Well, let's jump away from the world of manga and jump into some comics that we read this week. All of us had a chance to sit down with some books that we really liked from either this week or from around it, and figure out what we want to talk about. So, who wants to go first on this one?
I don't care. I'll go first.
Craig
don't care. Craig
don't
no
care.
fucks.
So, the book I'm going to talk about is Sleepless, issue number 6. And this is a book I've wanted to talk about since I read the first issue, but it didn't work in. And then it was like, okay, I'll fit it in at some point. It's published by Image. It's written by Sarah Vaughn and with art by Leila Del Duca and color by Alyssa Sala. Little background to get people caught up on this book. It's called The Sleepless, and the Sleepless are knights of this realm. And they take a vow to either protect the throne or an individual member of the royal family. And that vow includes never sleeping, hence the Sleepless. They literally go the rest of their life without ever sleeping again, because they are going to be awake at any moment to face any danger.
Oh, wow.
So this story is about Lady Pepinia, or Poppy as they call her, and her sleepless knight, Cyrenik. And the story started out with the king's death. And we find out that Lady Poppy is actually his recognized but illegitimate daughter. She's a member of the court. She's part of the royal family, but she has no claim to the throne because her mother was actually one of his advisors instead of the queen. So she's still illegitimate, but she's completely recognized as being a royal family member. So she's got her knight. Everything's great. Her father passes away. He has no male heirs, and so his brother takes over the throne. Well, she's like, okay, this is great. I no longer need to be here. I'm going to go back to my mother's homeland, because her mom's now had to go back since the father died. She's no longer an advisor, so she's went back to her homeland, and she wants to just go be with her family. Well, her uncle says, the king says, no, you're a valuable member of this court. I want you here. So as things tend to happen in these kinds of dramas, somebody starts trying to kill her. Starts with an attempted poisoning. It starts, and then moves on to more obvious attempts of just people coming at her, assassins trying to kill her, either through her own dumb luck or her wits, or her knight saving her, her sleepless saving her. She would be dead if it wasn't for this guy. So it kind of goes on, and this particular issue opens with him. The last issue ended with him attacking one of the assassins. The assassin gave the name of who the person that's been hiring them is, and it's her cousin, not the king's son, but his nephew from another sibling.
Right.
So it opens with the assassin dying in his arms. She gets called to court. She goes to court, and who's standing there but the guy that has been hiring the assassins? And the king says, hey, he wants to marry you, and I think it would be good. It would benefit both of these realms, and it would bring them together. And she, of course, responds with, well, I would be happy to, except for the fact that he's trying to kill me.
Right.
So, which is a big deal to make that kind of accusation.
Minor glitch.
Right. So, to make that kind of accusation in court, in a king's court, though, and the king's like, well, bring me the proof. How come I'm just finding out? And she's like, well, the assassin died. And he's like, okay, so you don't have any proof, and you're making an accusation against a royal family member, and while you're the former king's daughter, you're illegitimate. But you're making an accusation against a legitimate member of the throne.
You in danger, girl.
Yeah, so she, leaves court. Some other things happen. She goes back to her room. And, of course, her knight's with her the whole time. And Cyrenek, he looks at her and he tells her, he said, there's this thing that happens over a period of time with the Sleepless where they start having, not visions, and not delusional, but they start having, like they're almost asleep while they're awake. Because they've gone so long without sleep. And he knows that this madness is coming upon him. He started to have these vision things, and he knows that his time as being able to serve her is coming to an end pretty quickly.
He just needs more coffee.
Yeah. So he tells her that, and he says, we have to act quickly. And she says, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to go kill him. And she's like, you can't do that because then they're going to kill you. And he's like, I'm dying anyways. She's like, well, I'm just going to release you from your vow. And he's like, you can't do that. I will never forgive you if you do that because this has never happened in the written history of the Sleepless that they've been released from their vow before.
Yeah.
Well, she starts to say the saying to release him. He leans in and kisses her. The first you kind of realize that there's some romantic, because, throughout the thing, he's had different girls that went to his room with him and stuff. And so there's some like romantic feelings now, and it ends with her releasing him.
Oh, wow.
And he falls to the ground to sleep as soon as he's released from it. So it's the end of the first story arc. It was pretty powerful. If you like Game of Thrones or you like fantasy,
I was going to say it seems very...
Yeah, anything that is like politics in a king's court, it very much has a Three Musketeers vibe, where it's this kind of king's court politics going on. It's very interesting. It's fantasy, but there's not a whole lot of swordplay other than maybe them fighting the assassins and that sort of thing. It's a lot of politics. It's been a very fun read up to this point.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're collecting it in trade? Or?
I'm sure they will be. It's Image, so I would assume that the first trade is going to come out probably be $10 because that's what they do. And then we'll have a little break for a couple of months before they start up. So that's why I thought this was a perfect time to kind of talk about this one. I almost didn't give the end to it, but it was the main reason that I wanted to talk about it this week. So you get a minor spoiler, but there is a whole lot that happens leading up to that. So
sounds real awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I like to go next because I've got a book I want to talk about, and I don't have a lot of knowledge of the history. So instead of waiting for y'all to interrupt me all the time, I'm actually inviting you to join me on this one. My book of the week this time is DC Comics Justice League No Justice, #1. Written by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williamson. Artist is Francis Manapul. Colors by Hi-Fi. I'm guessing that's color. That's not a computer.
I think I think Hi-Fi is actually one of those coloring groups where it's a company with a bunch of people working for it. Because I see that name on a lot of books.
I do too.
Anymore.
Which, I've never looked into it. I always assumed that, but then there's people like
that do have kind of random names like that.
So I don't know. That's a good question. We have to research that.
Sure. But as I said, outside of reading my Teen Titans every week and a few in Batman, of course, I haven't been keeping up with the grandiose storylines that are going on within the DC universe, so I'm inviting you guys to chime in when needed.
Okay.
The book opens up with the gathering of the Green Lantern Corps. Just discussing there is a where how they do it. That there's a big breach in space, and they're talking about Justice League broke the damn universe, as Guy Gardner put it.
It's a source wall.
The what?
Source wall.
What is the source wall?
So in the Green Lanterns, there is a wall that divides the old universe from the new universe, and it absorbs light. And Kyle Rayner actually sacrificed himself to stop a breach in that wall previously, and actually ended up in that alternate kind of universe for a while when he was the White Lantern. And he just came back a while ago, and they haven't talked about the source wall up until this point in a long time. So it kind of surprised me because that wasn't from anything else that I was aware of other than that story.
Well, so they alluded to it. I don't know that they did a very good job explaining it, but they alluded to the source wall in the last issue of Metal.
Okay. I felt like there was some Metal time.
This whole thing spins out of Metal, and the event, like the last issue of Metal, there was a lot. It was very dense. There's a lot to unpack in that issue, and there's a lot of things in DC continuity that's spinning out of that, including this. Right. And right now, the source wall is keeping back a lot of the really nasty elements of the dark multiverse,
right,
from spilling through. And that's what all the Green Lanterns are there to, like. It's kind of the last. They're kind of making the last stand to keep that from happening, because out of everything in Metal, it didn't actually wrap anything up. So just me personally, and just because I did not like Metal as much as a lot of other people seem to have. It's a fine book. I'm not the largest Snyder fan as far as him writing like big teams. And now he's going to be on Justice League, so we're going to see how he does. I hope the best for him. I love Greg Capullo's artwork, but I don't know if it was inker in the Metal stories or what, but there was something off about Greg Capullo's artwork. The whole thing was just kind of a meh for me. There was a lot of good in it too, though, and those last two issues I actually did enjoy very much, and that's where a lot of this comes from.
And so it's leading into the story.
Yeah. So basically, the answer to your question is the source wall. You can look at it. It's bigger than this, but you can look at it as a physical manifestation of a barrier between multiverses.
Right. So, tunes into the Lanterns, revealing that has apparently been busted open by the Justice League themselves from whatever happened before that. Cut to quick panels of different groups, from the Suicide Squad to the Titans to the Teen Titans, battling what looks like just robot tentacles at this point. You don't really know what's going on, but Amanda Waller is monitoring all this.
Yeah.
And initiates a protocol XI.
Oh, Amanda Waller.
Which I'm sure is going to go great, because everything she does always works
and nothing ever goes wrong.
Right. Cut to a nice splash page revealing that the tentacles are from Brainiac. Which, after a lot of exposition and Superman punching the shit out of him, and a half splash page. Long and short of it is that Brainiac knows there's a greater threat coming to the world, and he is actually bringing the heroes with him.
Yeah.
And not just, and as is revealed when they wake up seeing all the heroes together, who are like mixed matched odd teams, it's also the villains have been brought in too, with the reveal of Lex Luthor and let's see, who else? I know I'm kind of skipping around. I know.
It's fine. No, go right ahead, man.
You're fine.
But
your thing.
Which revealed like Lex Luthor, Lobo, Deathstroke, the Demon, Etrigan with the villain for some reason, and Starro.
And Sinestro, I think.
Sinestro, but also Starro.
Starro's actually on the team.
Starro is there, and he is amazing. Just some of the little brief dialogue they have with it.
It's also weird to me that they used Lobo in that scene, because Lobo's been on the Justice League of America team with Batman.
And I never
for a while. Yeah,
so you'll see that a lot of the teams are pretty mixed up anyway. Like the Titans aren't all together, because like what he's doing, he revealed that there is. What he called them, the four brothers of the cosmic gods. Mm-hmm. Basically, there are four super beings that are going to come, basically are breaking free and are going to destroy everything. So, through Brainiac's world of, since his home planet is like all about collecting information, he believes that he can, and he actually, by the point he's explaining this, the Justice League are already standing beside him. Like, he's already broke down the rule of what's going on to them, and they're fully behind him. They're getting everyone else on board. Explain that his tactics with their abilities, he believes they can be stopped. And like I said, again, reveals Lex Luthor of all people is there, and and of course Starro, who's just fucking amazing. But
do you think that team's your favorite?
That specific, I don't know yet. They're not team. That's just all the villains were kind of hiding.
And they get split up on
with
2D7.
Entrogan for some reason.
Right.
But with the reveal of, like I said, Luthor, Destro,
I just
Sinestro,
realized they're all anti-heroes. Because Lex Luthor's been being portrayed as a hero.
Which they did mention that here.
Sinestro's not been portrayed as a villain for a while.
I guess that's
all
fair.
kind of
I did kind of categorize them.
I just read the Zero issue to it last night, so yeah, I was.
And but then we get to Amanda Waller, which apparently Protocol XI or 11, I don't know how we're supposed to read it.
I'd say 11.
Has gathered a shitload of people who, I guess if you're wholly familiar with the expanded DC universe, you might know who any of these people are. I don't. But apparently they are like the world's strongest psychics that you can kidnap. Basically implant with the brain. You see the scan of their brains all...
Yeah, that was one thing. That was one thing just when I was looking at this. I'm not a DC guy. I don't have a big experience with them, so I don't know who a lot of those people are. Our friends over at the Longbox podcast were explaining it, and apparently like Max Lord is in there. There's a ton of people that I don't know enough about the DC universe to be able to recognize. And so that moment, I really enjoyed this series, but I felt like I would have enjoyed it, or this book, I would have enjoyed it more if I had have known those background elements. If this was a Marvel book, I probably would have been able to pick up on it.
Right, and what I would say, like with that reveal, definitely.
Yeah.
What wanted me to talk about the book, besides this, is obviously the start of something big in the DC universe, which, like we've discussed before, is like the 52nd issue is going to be big changes, and I think this is definitely the catalyst for a lot of that, which started out apparently in Metal. But what I'm just loving is like little interactions, like Starfire sees Sinestro, and they immediately start butting heads because she don't like tyrants.
Right.
Just little exchange between Raven and Etrigan. I mean, there's little pairings that I've personally never seen because I haven't admittedly read a ton of DC. I don't know if they've ever met before. But this is good little interactions, and like they basically, Brainiac takes them to the first of the brothers.
Yeah, and these are Omega Titans.
Yeah, I mean, these things are like world destroying. I'm a Marvel guy, unfortunately, growing up, so like Galactus level threats.
Yeah, well, they're
It reminds me a lot of what's going on in that new Avengers book.
I was going to say there's a lot of similarities to this. They're both using Kirby design stuff because I think Kirby was the first one to really. I think these guys pour out of the Fourth World stuff from Jack Kirby. They're known as Omega Titans, and just for clarification and full disclosure, I'm reading this off of something because I was trying to find out. Do you know what the teams are called? Because you mentioned they're broken up into 4 teams.
I don't know if they give a title.
Yeah, they do. So the 4 teams are, and that's the reason I was asking. I want to make sure I wasn't stepping on your toes because this is your section. The 4 teams are Mystery, Entropy, Wonder, and I can't find the last one because CBR hates me.
Keep scrolling down.
Well, I know they called the Omega Titans the 4 brothers. They called them those. I didn't realize that's what the teams were broken up.
The names of the 4 brothers are what the teams are broken
up. I didn't catch that when I read it.
Okay, yeah, CBR, you need to fix your pop-ups on your mobile app because they fucking suck.
But it's fine. Like, I'm about to wrap it up though. But like, basically, you reveal that and Amanda Waller's playing with these psychics are to hack Brainiac. Which can only help this, I'm sure, these world-destroying problems.
Well, because Brainiac knows how to solve everything, and he's telling them.
So he's organizing, and just a great line I like is like when they see the first one, Superman, all he can say is, "My God," and Brainiac says, "They're not gods, Cal. They are destroyers."
Yep.
Like there's nothing to these guys except that. Long and short, he starts laying out what they're going to do and explaining it with all the calculations. They got it. And Brainiac starts having a headache.
Oh boy.
Then his head explodes due to all the psychic attack from Amanda fucking Waller.
Oh.
Yeah. So, like, literally, the last page is Brainiac's head explodes. Superman looking very surprised. The group saying, Beast Boy, guys, what are we going to do? And I can only assume Lobo by the terminology in a silhouette group shot because we are so fragged.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it, I love Beast Boy in this issue. I really don't. I haven't read enough of that
And
character.
like I said, read the issue. You can see one of my favorite aspects would maybe want to talk about it, not only just the setup, but I love, like I said, I love ensemble film. I love ensemble comics when they're well written and it makes sense. And like the interactions between some of these characters was great. From, I said, from Etrigan and Ravencon, the two dark gothic people talking, to just Slade Wilson getting manipulated by Starro and freaking out because I guess this never happened before.
Or Lobo and I guess it was Adam when he's like, if I put you in somebody's chest, could you like expand and then blow them up? And he's like, well, I guess I could.
like he'd never considered using powers like that.
Like you said, like I agree with you. And the Snyder stuff I have read, I've enjoyed, to be honest. I mean, this is three-man writing team.
Yeah.
But like right off the bat, the character interactions have been great. So I'm on board.
James Tynion and is it you say Freddie
Williams.
Freddie Williams. I enjoy both of those two guys immensely as writers, and I enjoy Snyder's work on we talked about his work on Batman and stuff before, so it's a good book. And the cool thing, I just want to throw this out there: if Sean has made you want to go pick up this book and read it, your local comic shop still has it, but it's a weekly book. So next week you're not going to have to wait long to find out what's going on. This book comes out Wednesday. The book 2 comes out. There's 4 issues coming out in 4 weeks, which is awesome because you just get to you won't lose that, which I'm a big fan of. I like that model.
Yeah, you're gonna have this, and you're gonna have. I'm sorry, Jerry. You're gonna have this, and you're gonna have Flash Wars, and those two things are setting up the new continuity.
Yeah.
So do you guys know much about Maxwell Lord?
Not a lot. No.
He's essentially, as far as I understand it, DC's version of Purple Man.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's done some really fucked up shit to Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
To the point of where she actually killed him at one point, broke his neck. That's the guy.
That's what. Yeah. Okay.
And he made his return after Blackest Night.
Yeah, that's where she when she refused to be Wonder Woman anymore and just went as Diana from that
and
point on.
she fucking snapped his neck, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, No Justice. It's a good book, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll go next if Jerry doesn't mind.
Go for it.
So the book I want to talk about this week is Red Hood and the Outlaws. It's a book I don't think I've spoken about a single issue as part of my book of the week before, but it's something I've said I'm enjoying. It's written by Scott Lobdell. It's drawn and colored by Dexter Soy and Allison Borges, or something like that.
Mr. Alex, if you have any issue,
Miss Allison.
Miss Allison. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Then take it, Jerry.
Miss Allison, if you're upset that we've mispronounced your name and misgendered you, please come on the show and fight us about it. But yeah, so Red Hood and the Outlaws, it's a trio. It's kind of I won't say a dark trinity, but it's kind of a gray area trinity where it features the Red Hood, who is a former Robin. He was the Robin that got killed with a crowbar. It features a Wonder Woman style heroine, and Artemis, and it features the anti-Superman of Bizarro. And it's been really good so far. So the story is kind of running on 2 lines. It is the main continuity right now is you've got Red Hood, he has gone undercover and he's trying to stop some criminal activity that's happening in conjunction with the Penguin and the Penguin's criminal operations. He runs an illegal gambling ring. He runs a legal gambling ring, but he's just got his hands in the nasty seedy underbelly of Gotham. So you get that he's there and he's fighting, and of course his cover's been blown, and now he's all red hooded up and beating up henchmen, just doing what he does, facing down Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin. But the other part of this story, and the ongoing thing about the story that makes this really special, and I've really enjoyed it, is actually the story of Bizarro. Bizarro, for those of you listeners who might not know, like I said, he's the anti-Superman, or he was meant to be. He was created to fight Superman. He's everything that Superman isn't, or at least he has been. On this one, though, it's kind of gotten him put into the good guy role, or at least he's being used to be that. It's really wonderful. He's kind of a character that should remind. He's a Steinbeckian character. He should remind you of Lenny from Grapes of Wrath. He's a simpleton throughout most of DC's universe. He's not very smart. He speaks in broken English. It's, everything is backwards to him. It's like me do. He speaks like a very child. He's very childish, broken English. In this storyline, though, Bizarro has been using kryptonite to make himself intelligent. And so for the last few issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws, Bizarro's been a super genius. It's almost a parallel to a smart Hulk figure, where he is able to tap into this massive intellect and to solve problems, to work on solving crimes, and to work on solving humanity's problems. But as all good things must come to an end, Bizarro's losing it, and he knows he is, and because they took away his kryptonite, they took away his manner and his mechanism to be able to feed himself intelligence and to maintain this higher level of being and intellect. And it's a sad, sad thing, because he's developed this brotherhood with Jason Todd, and he's developed this brotherhood with Artemis, and they rely on each other, and there's this family unity that this trinity of characters have developed. And in many ways, while he was intelligent, he began to lead them, and he's helping them work on their problems that they each individually have. And he can feel it slowly slipping away. In a lot of ways, as most comics, as we said earlier, it's a metaphor for Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a disease that I think has, it may not have affected everyone's lives, but we've at least all heard about it. We've all seen what it can do. Essentially what it does is it fails your body, but you still, it fails your mind. It's the opposite of Lou Gehrig's disease, excuse me. Your mind degrades, but your body for the long time stays functional. Like you're trapped in yourself, and you'll forget things. You'll lose your memories. You'll lose your attachment to loved ones. It's personally one of my biggest fears. Like if you were ever to ask me, and I think we've had that conversation before, as a group of friends, what my biggest fear is, it's that I'll be trapped in my body. I'll be functional, but I won't know who my friends and family are. That I'd be sitting in a room with my husband and be a burden to him, or be completely dependent on him, and not have a clue who he is. Like that horrifies me, and it's horrifying Bizarro, and he feels this slipping away. And you get these really, really intense emotional gut punches to where, Jason is speaking to him. They've exhausted their options. Artemis has gone to Lex Luthor to see what he can do. And there's not a lot he can do, and there's not a lot he will do. And I think, I'm not sure in this continuity, again, not being a major DC guy, I want to say Lex Luthor is largely responsible for his birth.
Yeah, so this isn't the Bizarro of pre-Crisis. Yeah, this is a clone of Superman, and everything that affects Superman, so the sun that makes Superman stronger actually weakens Bizarro, which is why kryptonite actually makes him stronger and smarter. He's the first successful clone that Lex Luthor had, and by successful meaning that he lived more than a couple of days.
Right.
Was this the same one that they popped up from like one of those last big New 52 stories?
Possibly. I don't know if it's the same one or not, because that one, the one that I'm thinking of, died in the Forever Evil thing.
That's the one I was thinking. Did he die?
I think so. Yeah. He sacrificed himself to save Lex.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's the same scenario, same, it's a clone where Lex tried to clone Superman, and this is what you got.
And in many cases, this Bizarro, before he achieved hyperintelligence, referred to Lex Luthor as his father. And so Lex Luthor, you would think, has some responsibility into saving him, but that's not who Lex Luthor is. To Lex Luthor, he's a product. He's a mistaken experiment gone wrong, and so he's not going to do anything. And you just get this really, again, Steinbeckian moment of this character slipping away, of Bizarro losing his identity, losing his personality. You get the Grapes of Wrath moment where he and Jason Todd are sitting on a bank overlooking the river, overlooking the city skyline of, I want to say it's Metropolis.
They're in Gotham.
Or in Gotham, okay. And Bizarro's speech patterns go from a very high register, these really intellectual moments, to his broken English, his child speak, what am in envelope, me am scared. And it's Jason going, you'll be fine, buddy, trust me, but we don't know what fine means. We don't know if they've discovered a way to to hold it. And then the last 3 sentences of this is, he am lying, but it am okay. It has to be. And that's, that moves me at least, because there is this real life element, and there is this sadness. It's part of the tone of the book that these are all broken characters. I mean, Jason Todd's a broken Bat character. He's broken Robin. He's a broken Bat figure. Artemis is a broken version of Wonder Woman who came from a broken home. Bizarro's a broken Superman.
It's the broken Trinity.
And they're constantly grasping for a hope that they may not be able to achieve. And in this, it's losing your identity, and it's losing your memories and your attachment to your friends. And that's touching, and it's moving. So Red Hood and the Outlaws, this was issue 22. Go out and check it out, man. It's a really good book.
So I'm really glad you talked about this, because Red Hood, whenever I start sitting down and I'm going, okay, I'm going to trim up my books, it's always one I think I'm going to trim up. And then I read the next issue, and it's like, it's too... And this has been going on since New 52. I've been looking to cut this book from my read list for 100 issues now, and I can't do it. It's been... I mean, every time it's like, it's just Red Hood. And then I read the next issue, and it's like, man, it's just fantastic. Consistently a good book.
Well, and, I've said it before, Bizarro is a very good vehicle for a writer to touch into the humanities, into what makes a person, into what gives us how we feel about ourselves. And there's been some great stories where he's done that. I know he had a Supergirl, a run in Supergirl, where it was kind of that same thing. But, I mean, writers can use this character, and I think he's a really underutilized character that has, at least for me, solidified his place in the overall DC universe as being a very moving character. And, there's a lot of things that writers are able to emote through him, either as a simpleton or as a hyper-intelligent being, or as a metaphor for the loss of self.
Yeah. It was a great book, and it's been a great book.
Also punching.
Also punching Jason Todd.
Sounds like an amazing issue.
Yeah. So the book that I got this week was Venom #1, which, if anyone knows me, they know that Eddie Brock's not my Venom.
Hashtag not my Venom.
Exactly. I don't know. I've just always found his character somewhat bland, somewhat of a meathead and stuff. He's had moments, but I don't know.
Which is
for some
funny,
reason,
because Eddie Brock is actually the smarter between him and Flash Thompson as far as intellect.
Yeah.
I guess Flash Thompson changed a lot since I last read him. He was just a meathead jock who bullied Peter.
But at this point, Flash has been through a lot. So the new Venom with writer Donny Cates, which if you've been listening, he wrote all
everything Jerry's read in the last year has been written by Donny Cates.
That Thanos wins.
You talked about Thanos?
Yeah. The issues 13 through 17, and then the annual was Donny Cates. So whenever he decided he was going to get on Venom, I decided I was going to go along for the ride. And it's Ryan Stegman, who's the penciler. And, oh man, he absolutely kills on this book. I didn't realize that he also did Venom Inc., which was really good. But that's because I think it was a different colorist or different inker. And it's J.P. Mayer as the inker and Frank Martin as the colorist. BC's Clayton Cowles is the letterer. But the art in this book is absolutely fantastic. We actually start off, and it's a little weird, and you can obviously tell from how it's kind of faded that this is a dream that's going on, and you see this kind of like almost Viking or Asgardian setup, but it also has a bubble down here that says that it's translated from ancient Norse. Reading it, you find out that this is actually the story of Beowulf, and there's a monster about to come through the door, and you're like, oh, Grendel, that's how that story goes. And then you see these familiar, like, this inky black stuff coming through the door, and it ends up essentially being what you think is Venom. And it turns out that the symbiote is having nightmares, which they kind of touched on in the last story of the last run. I haven't finished that just yet. That the symbiote doesn't have dreams. So this is a very odd occurrence. they wake up, and by they it's Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote, and they're staying in New York, and his hair is all grown out and stuff. It's a really weird, different Eddie Brock than we've seen before. But the symbiote is actually scared, and apparently they did as a lot of comics do and kind of changed some of his backstory. He did have a job with some company. I can't even remember who it is at the top of my head. But he's trying to, apparently he's losing control of the symbiote as he does. But this is like different than before. And he actually has medication to silence it now. So it's every now and then it's like talking to him and telling him to kill, murder, like becoming psychotic again. And he pops these pills and eventually its voice quietens. And he actually looks like he's contemplating committing suicide because he's worried about what'll happen, like losing control and killing somebody again. He goes into this thing of him having a radio to listen to police chatter, and you would think it's one of those things where he's out fighting crime or something like that, but instead he's chasing like a story, and he goes into this whole bit where he's watching this arms deal go down with the jack-o'-lantern. And I don't know if any of you guys ever read any of the Flash Thompson stuff, but that was the first big villain that Flash Thompson dealt with, and he was fucking terrifying. Like, they made that character so scary because he was just basically slaughtering people. But as with a lot of villains, the mantle gets changed up a bunch. This jack-o'-lantern is obviously not that same jack-o'-lantern. I thought it was interesting that they decided to have him in the first issue, though. He essentially just found the gear and donned it to pop in and do this arms deal with all these other like kind of 2-bit super villains. It looks like the Aardvark and Grizzly are here, which I think is
Grizzly.
fucking hilarious. But they get rushed in by the cops, and Eddie's out on top of this building taking pictures, and he's like thinking to himself, like, any other day, I would go down there and help them out. But I don't know what's going on with the symbiote with my other, and so I don't need to rush into this, but it looks like the cops have it. And Jack-o'-lantern pulls out a gun and shoots a cop. And before you know it, the symbiote takes control. And I guess since he took the pills, he's basically Eddie Brock's in the backseat. And he's is just pummeling the shit out of this jack-o'-lantern, and he's about to kill him, and Eddie's just screaming at him to stop. These cops show up, and he's about to waste them, and he's like, something feels wrong, and he turns around to look at the cops, and his symbiote is completely different than how it normally looks. He's got all these red markings. He's got a red spiral on his face. He's got all these crazy like veins going on. And his symbol changed. It's not a white spider. It's red, and it almost looks like a phoenix. I don't think it is the phoenix. It's got to be something like different. And another thing that I thought was kind of interesting is our first introduction to the Venom symbiote was Secret Wars alternate universe. We know at this point we know that it's got to come from space and everything. So now Eddie Brock's freaking out that this symbiote, his Venom symbiote, is about to kill these cops that just showed up. When he gets into some crosshairs from somewhere else and gets hit with this thing right in the forehead, and it blasts him. So there's some other force here, and Eddie Brock kind of comes to, and somebody pops up and thinks that he's Flash Thompson, and he kind of calls it disappointing that he's not Flash Thompson, and then shoots him with a trank.
So he was shot by
knocks
you.
him out. Yes.
Pretty much. It took us all a minute to get that, but yes.
I was like, yeah, put that.
We were all like, oh yeah.
So when Eddie comes to, he's chained and bound and stuck in a chair. He's got a furnace behind him, and there's this low thrum of like a bass that's keeping the symbiote at bay. We know that his weaknesses are fire and high sonic noises. So he comes to the deduction of like whoever this is knows how symbiote works and knows how to hurt it. The man finally pops up. He's got a lighter, and he's talking to Eddie that he needs his help with something. The person introduces himself as somewhere in this book. Rex Strickland. I don't know that they've ever mentioned him before, but he talks about how there was this kind of super soldier program, which is, I guess, what Flash was a part of. I don't think any of you are very familiar with the symbiote stuff.
I think it was touched on in the Carnage USA stuff.
That's what it was. Yeah. So back whenever they had Flash's Venom series going on, they brought Carnage back. Cletus Cassidy. They had a Carnage. Family? I can't remember what the first storyline was. The second one they had was called Carnage USA, where Carnage took over some farm out in the middle of nowhere, and the government responded by sending this Black Ops group, and they all had different symbiotes. Mm-hmm. They were all connected, and they all used them in different ways. Like one was a sniper, so his was over his head. One had one that he attached to an attack dog. One had like some kind of stealth thing going on, so he had them on his legs and on his arms. And they all look like Scorn and all the previous symbiotes that we saw. So apparently this guy was a part of that team, and he got out a while back. And the thing that he needs Eddie's help with is apparently something's going on with their symbiotes, and they got put on ice. So he needs Eddie's help in getting them out. He kind of goes over the information. He's asking Eddie all these questions, like, you call it your other. Do you even know anything about it? Like, do you know how old it is? Do you know what its real name is and stuff like that? Which brings up, like, they're going to get into some really interesting history of the Venom symbiote. Like, they got into it back in Venom Space Knight and stuff of the planet and everything like that, but this looks like it's alluding to something a little more deeper than that, something more chaotic and medieval.
Well, just to give you some place to go look for that stuff, if you go read the previous arc of X-Men Blue, they explain a lot about the symbiotic history in
with
space.
Poison X, was it?
I believe so,
yeah. Because that was the last story arc that they did in Venom, and then they started the nativity bit in it. So then it pops up, and Eddie's standing in a tunnel in front of all of these vehicles that are coming that are supposed to have the other people who had symbiotes in them. They essentially just make the order of, just run him over. Like, they don't know who he is. They think he's a homeless person. And he promptly fucking charges it. He's talking about how he feels so much stronger, like, at this point. And he charges it and just smashes the shit out of his truck. And people go flying out windows. They all get up, and they're trying to attack him and everything. He gets to the truck that the other symbiote should be in. Whenever he opens the door, an explosion happens. And he looks inside, and there are all of these people that had these other symbiotes have turned into this crazy, chaotic versions of themselves with a spiral. And they're speaking this weird language that they don't understand, and then Venom promptly starts to leave Eddie. There's fire all over the place, and the symbiote is seems scared. So Eddie Brock's just like, I don't know what to do. I feel so vulnerable and small right now, and he ends up just charging this fucking thing, and whenever he charges it, it stabs him right through the fucking chest. At that point, they all end up opening a portal or something and getting away. The symbiote Venom is like clamoring to Eddie, and he's trying to figure out, what are they doing? What's going on here? And their symbiotes leave them, and all of their bodies kind of fall. And the Venom symbiote just tells them what they're saying in that ancient tongue, that they're saying that God is coming. and there's a storm brewing and something blasts. Like you see this sort of earthquake happen on the ground above, and something huge flies out of the ground, and there's like lightning coming, and it just says God is coming. So it's the start of this new run of Venom, and it looks like it's going to be interesting. I'm really wondering where all this, the story of Beowulf and stuff comes into play, and what this ancient thing is, because we've seen the symbiote be possessed by demonic forces back in the Flash Thompson story, where he and 3 other people made a deal with Mephisto.
You just said it was Beowulf.
Uh-huh.
They're alluding to the fact that a Venom symbiote was the Grendel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read this, so yeah, I didn't realize that.
They that's essentially where they were going, and it's weird because they also said where in the hell is Beowulf in it. So there could also be a thing of like maybe Beowulf was taken over by the Venom symbiote or something.
Yeah.
See,
I have the interpretation that Beowulf was the Venom.
Was the Venom of that time. And then, I mean, just the whole thing with the spirals and the weird, how the symbol changed and everything.
We're going to have to call Stu Berryhill and let him know that Ryan Segment is stealing his design from Man of God.
Yeah. It was pretty wild, though. I really enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing where it goes and what it does.
Well, all right, dude. It sounds great. You in it for the long haul?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's Donny Cates.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I can't get away from that.
Well, those are incredible books all around. And you know what? There's a ton more that we don't have time to get into that we would, I'm sure, love to. But every week new books come out, and there's just a lot of good. There's a lot of good hitting the shelves right now. Comics are in a great place. We have actually, it's a very good problem of having so many books that I want to read that I can't afford. Having to pick and choose the quality that we get.
Speaking of not being able to afford books, we never really talked about it, but was there anything that came out that you guys were excited about on Free Comic Book Day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. For me, Barrier was really good. I really enjoyed that. And from Marvel, I'm a Marvel guy, the preview for Ta-Nehisi Coates' Captain America was the standout for me. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
The preview for Spider-Man, for the new Spider-Man, was pretty awesome.
I don't remember if I picked it up, and I'm really disappointed in myself. I know Sean had to miss.
I didn't make it to Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah. That's okay. I have some stuff. If you're interested, I'll let you borrow them and read them.
I was actually really excited about Shadow Roads. It's I'm guessing the sequel to was it Six Gun, which was a really great series by Colin Bunn, and I'm pretty excited about where they're going to go with it, and I think I'm into it for the long haul.
Awesome.
Nice.
Good stuff.
You guys ready to get ahead of ourselves a little bit and jump into some of the stuff that we might be looking forward to in the future and next week and stuff?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's do it. I will kick this off if you guys are cool with that.
Nope.
No. The book I want to talk about actually does not come out next week. It's not going to be out for a little bit because it's still in development in a Kickstarter. It's an indie book from some friends of ours over at Kingbone Press. The book is called Hellbillies, and they're putting out they've been working on this book for 5.5 years. They've been coming out in issues. They are an indie. They are the true form of indie books. They are self-published and everything. They do really fun work. They just launched a Kickstarter last week to put everything in the Hellbillies stuff in one giant tomb. The Kickstarter runs from May 4th to June 3rd, so they've still got time. I am happy to announce that they have met their first goal, so they are at least funded. Now they've got some stretch goals, and that's going to allow them to get the book out in a better quality. Maybe they can pay for some better paper and everything else. So if you're so inclined to spend some extra money, get on Kickstarter, look up Kingbone Press, and throw them a little bit of scratch because it's going to increase the value and the quality of the product that they're able to make. I know these guys personally. They are great dudes, and they are paying for this up until this point. They paid for it out of pocket. They're just struggling because they're hustling. They're not struggling, they're hustling because they love this. They love comics, and so they're trying to get this out. They were kind enough to send us a PDF of what this collection is going to look like. I've sent it all out to the guys, so check your emails, and we're going to be able to read it and do a review on it in the near future. But Hillbillies is about a family of hillbilly monster hunters, the Conway Gang,
And they're not in it for the sport. The family's been protecting the south of the old U.S. of A. for decades, and they've always done it in secret. They keep the creepy crawlies out of your closets and out from under your beds. The story picks up shortly after a reporter finds the Conways where no one else could. Is this all just a cover-up for some moonshine empire? What, with that, the winds have changed and the secrets and surprises begin to get even bigger. This is going to collect 15 issues and 4 short stories and tons of extras. It's written and lettered by John Westhoff. It's the art and the covers and the watercolors are done by Brian Boyles, with a little help from Tim O'Brien and Sean Fagan. The book is really good. To kind of piggyback off of what they have going, it's a Southern Gothic mystery. It's got elements of Lovecraftian stuff. It's got, basically, you take the Dukes of Hazzard, throw it in with a little bit of Supernatural, sprinkle the monster manual from Dungeons & Dragons over it, and stick it in with Cthulhu, shake it up, and this is what falls out. It's really, really fun. It's got a very... The art, it's indie comic art. This is nothing... They were not going for anything hyper polished. It's a little raw. It's a little rough. It's an homage to some of the comic strip stuff. If you liked Rock Candy Mountain, so if you liked Rock Candy Mountain, you'll enjoy this style of art from the guys. It's really good. Get on Kickstarter if you've got $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 extra bucks. Throw it to them because it's going to be worth you getting. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds really cool. Kind of makes me think of Amnesty. The Adventure Zone's current story that they've got going on. I'm down. Yeah. I'm pretty stoked for it.
Shout out to Hellbillies and Dudes from King Bone Press, man.
Mm-hmm. Sean, what do you got, bud?
Man, I'm still flipping through what's coming out next week, but because there's a lot I'm excited for, so I'm gonna do a little different. I'm gonna throw out some quick bullet points and not really get into them. Mm-hmm. Usagi Yojimbo the Hidden comes out, which has been an amazing crime story. Batman. Let's see what else Booster's Gold isn't gonna fuck up. Last part of the Harley Quinn 2-parter, Harley Love Joker, comes out next week. Barrier number 3, which is a book I just jumped on, all silent issue.
Nice.
So let's see how we can write a storyboard instead of dialogue.
Me a good silent issue.
I think it's gonna be great. And Rat Queens is back. It feels like it's been a while.
Seems like
and I'm gonna be honest, I'm looking forward to it continuing because it is Rat Queens, but this is one honestly, I'm going to probably have to sit back and buy them all and just read them in one shot because it has not been coming out regularly.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to go with the same thing Sean did. Gideon Falls 3, Infidel 3, and Avengers, the new Avengers number 2.
I missed that on the upcoming. I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah. Avengers?
I guess I missed it,
yeah.
I didn't see it on the Midtown.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys kind of did that because I'm going to do a little bit different like Caleb and talk about a collected thing that is happening.
Cool.
Next week, Black Science Premier Hardcover Remastered Edition comes out.
Nice.
And it's a hardcover. It collects issues 1 through 16. So if you've been looking to get onto Black Science, this is your chance to do it. But for those of you that don't know, this is written by Rick Remender. And drawn by Matteo Scalara. This is absolutely this is absolutely a beautiful book. It's beautifully written. It's beautifully drawn. The premise of the book is think Stargate, but they fuck everything up.
So Stargate.
I mean, wherever they go, they bring chaos, destruction, death. They're genius level people with no common sense at all. I guess you would call him he's the protagonist of the story.
Father
anyways.
of the year.
Yeah, Grant McKay. He's chasing his kids through the multiverse because they've got their own. It's so many things. This story goes in so many different directions because in probably these first 16 issues too, it seemed like every issue was its own story because they would go to a different multiverse a different universe in the multiverse at the end of every book, or maybe every 2 books. So you really get a feel for how large the multiverse is, and then it kind of narrows back down and becomes a single story at some point. But if you've never read Rick Remender, he is another one of those guys that writes the human condition unbelievably well. Him and Lemire and Brian K. Vaughan. Some of the best at it for sure.
He's actually the first person that started off that Flash Thompson Venom run.
Yeah, he actually was. I think I gave you a signed copy by him.
Yep.
So
But you gotta have friends.
yeah. So yeah, definitely pick it up. I think it's running about $50, but it's a hardcover edition. I guarantee it'll have some bonuses and stuff in it with it being a remastered edition. So I'm personally not picking it up because I've got the entire run, but what a great place for people to be able to, start reading.
You make a great gift, Craig.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about those hardcover books is you get a lot of the variant cover, the art from different stuff, and you just get a lot of extras, man.
Well,
That's worth the money.
With them calling it remastered, I'm sure there's some extra stuff in there. So.
Well, all right. Well, very good. Lots of good stuff coming out. We ready to bring this thing home?
Yes.
Well, let's do it. All right, Southern Fried fam. If you have liked what you heard, and as always, what in the world?
What are the cat toys?
Oh, wow. We're leaving that in. Okay. Well, hey, Kitty. We hope you've liked what you've heard. And if you have, feel free to go on iTunes. In fact, we encourage you to do so. Leave us a review. Leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. It not only helps us be able to judge the quality of what we're giving you, it gives iTunes a little bit of an idea that we're putting out a quality show, and they help promote us because their algorithms work in weird ways. You can also find us on social media. We're kind of all over the place. We have a Twitter and an Instagram site. Both of those are at SFG Podcast. You can come to our Facebook page, which Sean gets to be a rock star on and does great work. Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. You can email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And you just reach out to us any way you can. You can link to our personal sites from all of those things. Because we like tapping in and talking to you guys. We like to know what we're doing and what your thoughts on stuff are. We're trying to create a little bit of community here, and it's a lot of fun, man. Really, you guys do a great job in keeping all those things going. And when I say you guys, I'm not only the people sitting at this table, but also you people out there in Radio Land that throw stuff back to us.
What do you mean, you people?
Oh, Jesus. oh, Lord. Anyway, yeah, so if nothing else, Sean.
There is one more thing. Just a reminder, if for any of you who don't see us on a regular basis at Kapow Comics in Sherwood, Arkansas, we will be at Little Rock Comic Con.
Yes.
If you listen to us and you're in the Arkansas area, come out and meet us. If you can spot us and find us, we'll be bugging somebody about comics out there. So, come say hi. Come tell us, Jerry's funny and Caleb's weird. Whatever you want to say.
Come see the super secret cosplay that these guys are throwing together.
Super secret.
And possibly Craig's.
Maybe. We're still deciding.
and Caleb, they doesn't realize he's doing it.
No.
D-Man.
Oh, I would do D. I'm not a redhead. I'd get Roger to do D-Man. And then I'd do D-Man.
Can we end it already, please?
You guys have also heard us refer to you as the Southern Fried Fam. That's our hashtag that we use. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, and you see something in comics or in geek culture that you really like, use that hashtag because we do follow it, we do look at it, we do like and comment on your stuff. It lets us come to you instead of you having to come to us. If there is no further ado, go forth and love some comics.